Oh, I wish you guys could hear what I was listening to right now. Oh, it's been added. Here we go. And away we go.
That's why it's really important to have a plan and understand what your goals are.
In fact, my camel out there is suffering right now with a broken back.
So I actually found Pepe when it was only a couple of hours old, and I'm like, oh, this is a funny meme.
Oh my god.
Yo! Who is this degen?
The old man is swing trading over years at a time. And it's like, that's where the real money is made.
The answer is a permanent loss. With single-sided staking, you don't have to worry about impermanent loss.
But really, at the end of the day, it's just the matter of a macro market. It's just what happens.
If you're aware, if you're disciplined, you can hone that into further financial growth.
Financial freedom, so we can actually live life and not have to be constantly living paycheck to paycheck. I mean, that's the ultimate goal, more or less, right?
Our content cannot and does not contain crypto financial advice. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, crypto degenerates, ducks and squirrels, welcome to this special book club episode number 64 of the Degen Roundtable. I will be your host for tonight. My name is Will Stevenson. I'm a iron worker that travels around the United States building TV and radio towers for a living. And in my free time, I like to talk cryptocurrency and self-betterment to assholes and degenerates such as yourself. Tonight, we're going to be going over the introduction to the United States Marine Corps rifle marksmanship using my handy dandy Nerf Fortnite AR-15. It's going to be a good time. It's going to be a fun educational show. So hopefully we can get some learning done and you guys can learn a thing or two about marksmanship and how to better use weapon systems to get your goals accomplished. That's pretty much what we're going to be doing. We normally cover books during this special segment show of the week. As you guys can see, on Wednesday we talk to guests. Friday we cover books, and then Sunday we go over the news. We're doing something a little bit special this week because I feel like it, and so that's what's going on. So I'm going to be teaching you guys about marksmanship, getting myself a little bit less rusty. It's just mostly for me, if I'm being completely honest. I'm doing this show because I want to get back into the swing of things, teaching people how to shoot guns and how to do all that sort of stuff. So I figure, what better place to start than right here over on the internet, rather than trying to do it in real life and scrambling with people who have traveled long, long ways to get instruction and things. So we're going through the down and dirty of it. And let me tell you guys, like, going through all of my old coursework material, it's like, oh shit, I'm missing a whole bunch of slides that I thought that I had. I'm missing a whole lot of the coursework material. This stuff is meant for Marines. This stuff is meant for beginners. This stuff is meant for intermediate. And so I'm just kind of working with what I have here, but it's going to be a good time. We're going to teach you guys how to shoot. We're going to teach you guys some of the fundamentals of Marine Corps marksmanship. And hopefully we can get you guys from 0 to 1 in the world of how to better use a rifle in order to get your goals accomplished in the world of moving small pieces of lead from one place to another very, very fast. So that's what we're going to be doing tonight. That's what we're going to be covering. If you guys have any questions about anything having to do with rifle marksmanship or anything like that, feel free to launch them into the chat, or anything that I need to cover more explicitly while we are going over it. Feel free to launch on in there and get asking and things like that. So speaking of chats, it's time for everyone's favorite part of the show. It's time for chat motherfucking shout outs. So this is the part of the show where I shout you guys out for hanging out with me and doing cool things. Shout out to all 14 of you guys out there that are watching right now. We have been joined tonight first and foremost by so YouTube's done a new thing with names, I have noticed, and it no longer shows people's usernames. It shows whatever they have selected as their URL for YouTube. So we've been joined first and foremost by Miss Amber Simon. Hello to you, Miss Amber Simon. She says hello to us. We're also joined by Miss Tam Tam Hexkin. Hello, Tam Tam, who says hello, my lovelies. Good to see you, Tam. And we're also joined by my good friend, Dr. Alan Chen, Your Health Unplugged, who says 7 out, which I don't really know. Maybe that's a play on words for 7 up, but 7 out and 7 up to you too, good sir. I was hanging out with Dr. Chen earlier today. It was a good time. We had some great camaraderie and some good lunch and cool meetings and all sorts of fun stuff. So shout out to everybody who is oh, for craps. Oh, that's what it's for. It's for playing craps. Yes, I fucking love playing craps, man. Oh my god, Alan's got me addicted to this freaking new gambling game. So craps is really, really fun. I suggest you guys never learn how to play it because then you'll just want to do nothing but play craps all the fucking time, and then you'll lose all your money. But we don't want any of that. We're just here to hang out, have fun, and learn a little bit about pistol and rifle marksmanship. So let's see. We've got. I need to pull up my media assets over here. All right, so there we go. I can change the backgrounds. I can do all that stuff. So without any further ado, we're going to get right on fucking into it. So we're going to be covering MCRP 3.01 alpha, which is the Marine Corps' rifle marksmanship, like uh, physical distribution thingamajigger. So this is an unclassified document. In real life, it would be a book that looks just like this, right? This is my book for assault climbers. It's a little bit different than the one that we're going over today. We're going over the one on rifle marksmanship, but this is unclassified material. This is available for everyone. I found this on the internet. This is actually a link. You guys can go to marines.mil, or actually trainingcommand.marines.mil, and then you go to the portals, and then you could just type in MCRP 3-01 alpha, and it will come up with this fancy schmancy this fancy schmancy. I should change this to a different. There we go. I'm gonna put that in a different web browser over there, so that way I can open it manually and scroll through it. So there we go, right over there. Ooh, I need to minimize that a little bit. All right, cool beans. So we've got our. Can you see my mouse on this? I don't think we can see. Can we see my mouse? Nope, we cannot see my mouse. All right, well that's moderately. Oh wait, no, we can see my mouse. Excellent. Okay, cool. I'm gonna be using my mouse as a pointer and things while we're going through this. So here we go. We're gonna launch straight on into it. So before we get crazy far into the lessons and things, we're gonna go over the basics and the stuff of the Marine Corps rifle. So this is just kind of this covers essentially what are like the things that we're going to be talking about. So the introduction, obviously that's first, then the Marine Corps Combat Marksmanship Program. We're not going to worry about that too much because you guys are not in the Marines, presumably. I mean, shout out to all my Marines out there. Fucking Semper Fi to all you active duty devil dogs and all my veterans and everything. I guess if you guys want to go through this instead of sitting through the coaches classes, then by all means feel like it. But chapter 3 is really where all the cool stuff begins. So it goes through the service rifle. So basically, an M16 or an AR-15 or an M4 is what the Marine Corps uses for its service rifle. They're switching over to the M27 IAR, which is made by Heckler and Koch, but it's essentially the same thing as an M16 or an M4. I'm using this fancy schmancy Nerf Nerf replica made so kindly by our good friends over at Nerf, and it's a Fortnite gun, so I guess that's cool. So shout out to everybody who likes Fortnite. Not really my particular game, but we're going to be talking about as many of the weapon functionalities and parts as possible in the very first part, talking about the combat optic, the Picatinny rail system, the slings, all the different types of ammo, the cycle of operation. We kind of went through cycle of operation this time last week when we were discussing pistol, but we'll go through it again. Some of the preventative maintenance that you could do, disassemblies, et cetera, et cetera. Then we'll go into weapons handling, right? So safety rules, we're not too terribly worried about because you guys aren't going to be going on Marine Corps rifle range, but there's a lot of safety rules that are relevant to things that you guys are going to be doing in your everyday life when you're using weapon systems, whether you're hunting, whether you're at the range with your friends, whether you're out doing this, that, or the other thing with guns. Safety is super duper important when you're carrying around these killing tools. So that's something to keep in mind. Weapons conditions isn't that important. Weapon condition determination is important. So I take it back. Weapon condition is important. So for right now, this weapon would be considered condition 1, right, or condition 3. We'll go through that later. I'm not gonna get ahead of myself. All right. So chapter 4 is all about the weapons handling. Chapter 5 is the fundamentals of marksmanship. So like how to aim with an optic, how to aim with iron sights, how to do trigger control, how to have a good grip, finger placement, etc., etc., etc. Chapter 6 is firing positions. So you can shoot from the standing, the sitting, the kneeling, etc., etc. So we'll talk about that more there. Chapter 7 talks about how the weather affects your shooting. Chapter 8 talks about zeroing the rifle, which is essentially getting a really good relationship between your rifle and your optic. I have this fancy schmancy drawing that I made long ago that basically describes the way that that your optic works versus your gun versus the trajectory of your bullet. We'll cover that more later. It's actually, I was quite pleased to find that the Marine Corps had made something similar, a much more professional drawing when compared to my own, but it's essentially the same thing. So I was very pleased to see that. And then offset aiming for a windage and elevation, and then like we get into engagement techniques, which is more of like wartime stuff, shit you guys probably won't be worrying about, but in the event you got to shoot people, then it's good to have in your back pocket. And then target detection and range estimation, multiple target engagement techniques, moving target engagement techniques, etc., etc. And then we're gonna skip over low light engagement techniques because that's all about like night vision and infrared lights and things like that. So that's the general basic gist of what we're going to be going over today in this course. So if you guys have any questions, again, make sure that you write them down in the chats, and we're just going to kind of roll through it. So here we go. All right, so the introduction to rifle marksmanship. I'm going to go ahead and read this to you guys a little bit because it brings back some of the good old times and old days and memories for me. But this is just a little bit of a glimpse into the Marine Corps world. So all Marines share a common warfighting belief. Every Marine is a rifleman. This simple credo reinforces the belief that all Marines are forged from a common experience, share a common set of values, and are trained as members of an expeditionary force in readiness. Therefore, there are no rear area Marines, and no one is very far from the fighting during expeditionary operations. As in the past, Marine riflemen will be among the first to confront the enemy and the last to hang his weapon in the rack after the conflict is won. So basically, the ethos of the Marine Corps is that every Marine is a rifleman, right? That's one of the major things that is super duper important to the Marine Corps. Not going to dwell on it a whole lot, but in the Army, you've got guys that are cooks, you've got guys that are uh, truck drivers, you've got guys that are medics, you've got guys that are this, that, or the other job, and every Army guy has their job, and a lot of Army guys get training on their weapon systems, but not everyone does, right? In boot camp, they kind of sort of get something, but it's not like guaranteed that like if you're an Army X, Y, and Z person that you're going to get a whole lot of training with your weapon system. In the Marine Corps, every single Marine has to train with their rifle at least once a year, and they have to qualify and they have to meet a certain standard of rifle marksmanship in order to be considered to be a Marine and in order to keep that title and to continue doing Marine Corps things. So, like if you go onto the range and it turns out you suck with a weapon, like you're well, first off, you can't graduate boot camp if you don't pass the qualification standard, which I think of a total of 250 points possible, you have to have like 170 or 180 in order to pass. Or no, excuse me, 190 in order to pass. So that's like a 80% or 70% qualification range. So if you're not 70% good with your weapon system, then you don't get the title of Marine and you don't get to graduate and you don't get to move on into the Marine Corps fleet. So it's just kind of like a quick little snippet of information for you guys. There is every Marine knows how to operate a service weapon, right? At the very least. And then all infantry guys are trained even further down the road as it goes to infantry. I was logistics personally when I was in the Marine Corps. I moved boxes around on, flight lines, in ports, at shipyards, and on railway operations, basically any major point of embarkation and debarkation. I was getting gear onto and off of gigantic vessels and things. So that's what my job was. Is I was a logistics guy, but every single Marine, no matter whether you're logistics, if you're communications, if you're radios, if you're intel, if you're just some like computer typer guy, like you're expected to know how to use your weapon system. Like if you're called to the front line, or if God forbid the base starts getting bombed and shit starts popping up, you're expected to go and grab a gun and be competent and at least know how the gun functions and how to put rounds down range effectively in order to neutralize any sort of thing that might be problematic. So that's just a difference between the Marine Corps, the Air Force, the Army, the Coast Guard. Every single Marine is a rifleman at their core. That doesn't mean that they're infantry, but it just means that they know how to function and operate a rifle. So I'm going to try and pass a little bit of that on to you guys today. For entertainment purposes, this isn't there's not going to be any testing. I suppose that the testing is real life. So if you encounter a person in real life who's trying to kill you or something, and you happen to have a rifle, then you can use this skill and knowledge in order to neutralize any sort of threats. So this goes through the combat marksmanship program. We're not going to be worried about that. That's basically just like, hey, this is how you this is how you like get better at shooting in the Marine Corps. So I'm just going to be going through the fundamentals with you guys. So we're going to skip through all of this. We're going to go down to the good stuff. So chapter 3, the service rifle. So the description, the service rifle is basically any M16, any M4, anything that looks like this, any sort of AR-15 or M4 or M16 weapons platform for the duration of this course or the duration of this this book is going to be called a service rifle. So just kind of keep that in the back of your minds when anything in here says service rifle, they're referring to an M16A4 or an M4 or an AR-15 or an M27 IAR, any sort of weapon system that is based on Eugene Stoner's Armalite weapon system platform, then like that's going to be called a service rifle. All right. It has a maximum effective range of 500 meters. What that means is this weapon system is capable of reaching out and touching somebody accurately at 500 meters. That doesn't mean it's its max range total. It just means that's the farthest that you can shoot it and effectively like hit a person-sized target or like a 6-foot square entity. So once you start getting past 500 yards, then you start getting into areas where like your weapon system is not accurate enough to do things consistently. So every single weapon system has a maximum effective range and a maximum range. The maximum range is the distance that your bullet will travel when you shoot it. So like if I take this gun, instead of pointing it like right at a target, I point it up in the air at a 45-degree angle and I shoot. The bullet's going to land, freaking a mile or a half mile away or something like that. I don't remember the total max distance for an AR-15 or an M4 or service rifle, but the effective range is about 500 to 550 meters. So there you guys go. And those are for point targets. And so 550 meters ish for point targets, which is a person, and then 800 meters for an area target, which is that 6-foot or 6-foot by 6-foot square target that I was telling you guys about. All right. So a little bit of, okay, so this covers like the specific parts and pieces. I'll go through that when we have the actual pictures here. So I'm going to go ahead and zoom in a little bit. Bam. There we go. Look at that. Fucking beautiful. So over here on the left, we have the left side view of an AR-15, or this is an M4A1, and then down here, or excuse me, M16A4, and then down here is an M4. The difference is basically the solid stock versus the adjustable stock, and also the barrel length on an M4 is shorter, therefore more portable, and the barrel length on an M16 is longer. Also, the barrel is thicker on an M16 than it is on an M4, and that's just a function of like, the needs of the Corps when these two different weapon systems were designed. The Marine Corps is currently transitioning away from the M16 platform and more into the M4 platform. Most people have M4s, and then eventually all of the infantry is moving into the IAR platform, which is just a fancier, schmancier version of the M16 and the M4, but it's made by Heckler and Koch, the German manufacturers. So this is what the weapon system looks like. You have your magazine right here. You've got a trigger right there. You've got your pistol grip. You've got a buttstock. You have a 3-point sling is what this specific type of sling is called. You have your optic mounted on top. It is mounted on what's called a dovetail slide Picatinny rail. And over here, we have a hand guard. It's basically the guard for your hand. It stops you from reaching out and grabbing the barrel so that you don't burn yourself. The hand guard currently has Picatinny rail adapters that slide onto the Picatinny rail, so that way you're not grabbing onto a piece of aluminum that's sharp and jagged. You're grabbing onto these nice rounded plastic pieces that don't like cut or scrape you or catch on things. It's just like a cover system that keeps you from getting all fucked up. Ooh, I can move to the side. Excellent. Very good, very good. All right. So yeah, these are the hand guards. Up here we have the front sight post, right? The front sight post is a fixed piece of metal that you can adjust. There's a tiny little stick inside here that you can't see right now because it's covered by these hood guards. But the front sight post is the thing that you line up in the front of the gun with the rear sight. So actually, the rear sight on an AR-15 is a circle. So this is your front sight post, and this is your rear sight aperture, right? This particular weapon system does not have a rear sight aperture because it has the optic. But in the event that the optic breaks, it's good to have a backup set of iron sights to supplement your optic that you got there. And then over here we've got the barrel. The barrel goes from like right here all the way back here. And then this is the ejection port cover where all the action happens, where the bullets fly out as you're shooting. And then this over here is a compensator and flash suppressor. What that does is it splits up the fire image that like every time you shoot, there's fire that comes out of the barrel. So what this compensator and flash hider does is it breaks up that fire to make it like less obvious, and it also mitigates a little bit of recoil and things like that. So same thing on the M4. You just got a shorter barrel. Um, let's see what else I have not covered. Ooh, I've not covered this. So this right here is the forward assist. That is basically a little plunger that you can smash with your hand or like push forward with your hammer. You can see that it's kind of tapered and goes into the weapon. What that does is, if your bolt carrier is not all the way home, right? Your bolt carrier has to go home every time it puts a round in the chamber. If there's a little gap like that, then the weapon won't fire. So what the forward assist does is when you hit it with your hand, or when you press it with the meaty part of your thumb right here, you just tap it like that, then it scoots that bolt closer and closer until it seats all the way. So sometimes when you're firing the weapon and it gets dirty, or you're in like bad conditions, you'll have to smash onto that forward assist in order to send the bolt all the way home, so that way your rounds are locked in and you're ready to rock and roll. This little device right here is just a piece of metal that is it's called a brass deflector. So as the weapon is firing, this bolt carrier is traveling back and forth and back and forth, and it's flinging spent rounds or spent casings out of the weapon as you shoot them, right? So while it's flinging them, they generally land in a pretty predictable area, which is, the shooter's face, if this little device isn't right there. So this little device basically makes the brass fly out of the chamber, hit this thing, and then it shoots forward or shoots off to the side, or doesn't fly back and hit the person in the face. So there you go. Because this bolt is traveling rearward, the brass would have a tendency to fly backwards and go like right next to you. So we don't like that, so we have a brass deflector. Let's see what else I have not covered. This right here, this little button. Let me scroll in a little bit. Ooh, there we go. Ooh, if I press that, can you guys see that that control button? I don't know if. Hang on, I gotta move this screen over so I can see if you guys can see. If I press that, no, you can't see that. Damn, that's unfortunate. What if I share the window instead? Fuck it, I'm not gonna worry about it. No sweat. All right, so we've got this little button right over there. That is your magazine release. So when you press that button, the magazine drops out of this little chute right here. So the magazine goes into the magazine hole and it sits in securely until you press the magazine release button, at which point it falls out, or you can pull it out if it's kind of stuck in there. Let's see, what else have I not covered? I have not covered the safeties. So we're going to go to, there we go. Come on, why don't you scroll for me? Scroll for me. There we go. All right. So here we have the other side of the weapon. This is your safety selector. So right now the weapon is unsafe. And then there is an option on the top of the safety selector for fire. And then there is an option on the bottom of the safety selector on the far right-hand side for burst. And you know what I just realized is last time my internet was cutting out while it was live. So I'm going to go ahead and join this stream using my phone so that way, oh, shoot. We want to escape that. There we go, Control C. And then I need to send this to myself in Telegram. So this way I can keep talking in the event that my computer starts shitting the bed like it was doing in the last time when we were playing the pistol marksmanship game. So let's see. I'll just go ahead and add myself to the stream. So that way we got something in the event. Oh, goodness gracious. Man, we do this live, guys. Here's some of the proof in the pudding. So this is what it looks like joining the stream. All right, I'll just place that right there. And I will mute myself and stop the camera. Enter the studio. Aha, I've heard the blip. Oh, goodness. I gotta mute that phone so that I can't hear myself. All right. And add to stage. All right, sweet. Oh, man, it's too bad that I can't, like, make my little camera thing go away. Ooh, I think I can put my camera behind myself. Anyways, I'm not going to worry about that. It's time for marksmanship and stuff. So I'll go ahead and place this where I can't hear it and it won't bother me. And then if my by the way, if at any point in time during this time or during the stream the sound quality for the computer starts dropping, just start spamming ones in the chat or something, so that way, or actually no, don't spam a 1, spam a 2 in the chat, so that way I know that you guys can't hear me, and I will switch my audio to the phone, and we'll just deal with the computer being a piece of shit. So there we go. Oh, by the way, before we go any further, we've been joined by some more folks. So shout out to Mr. M Rock Jockey. who is saying that he likes it. I like it too, broski. Good to see you. Glad that we can have you with us today. Also, my Marine Corps buddy, Mr. Josh, Mr. Slide 180. He is with us as well. Gap batteries engaged. Yes, I've got my gap batteries right here, broski. The fucking the little batteries that make the gun go boom. So this is my Nerf battery that makes the bullet operate. One of the cool things with semi-automatic weapon system is that the bullet is essentially a battery that makes the gun recycle, and so you're able to shoot another round. But we'll get into that later. But yeah, so there you go. Let's see. So that shout out to Mr. Josh, Mr. Slide 180. And then also we're joined by Mr. Pablo Cruz 62. I read that book in 1980. Looks like they updated it. Yes, they have updated it, sir. When I was in the Marine Corps, I got out in 2019 and we were on 3574.2 kilo. 3574.2 kilo was the Marine Corps' marksmanship order. So this is more of like the fundamentals of how rifles work. This isn't like the classes and stuff on how the actual ranges are operated and everything, but the ranges have totally changed, man. They have totally changed. It's no longer a hit and miss system. It's now like there's points scored. You're shooting at people-sized targets. It's all sorts of different. So read this book in 1980. That's awesome, sir. Shout out to you, Semper Fidelis. Good to see another fellow jarhead and cran eater in the comments with us. All right. And that takes us all the way up. So we are all caught up with the comments. So back to the guns and the weapon systems and things. So here we have the, so I was talking about the safety selector switch. So this is your safety selector. You basically manipulate that with your, the hand that you put on the weapon system for firing stuff. So as you can see on this little example, they have a fake one right there made out of plastic. You would just flick it just like that. And then when it's pointed straight up, then that has then the weapon is on fire and everything. So there you go. And then this button right here, oh, there it is. This button right here is your bolt catch. So every time that the weapon runs dry, every time that the weapon runs out of ammo, there's actually a mechanical device inside of your magazine and inside of the weapon that causes the bolt to lock back to the rear. So that way you know that it's run out of ammo. And you look over inside of the ejection port cover, and the chamber will not look like this. It will look different. It will look empty. So this is what a full chamber would look like. This is the bolt carrier right here. So when the weapon has a round in the chamber or the bolt is closed, it will look like this. When the bolt is locked to the rear, this whole space right here will be empty. So when it's empty and you go and you put in a fresh magazine, bam, you put it in just like that. You would smack this button right here. So let me show you with my mouse. You smack that button right there, and that causes the bolt to go forward and into battery and load a round into the chamber. So you're ready to rock and roll and start shooting. Also, another thing I didn't talk about right here down there is a bayonet lug. That's where you attach a bayonet to the weapon. So let's go. Some more fun facts for you. All right, let's see. So I need to zoom out. All right, bam. Is that at 100% zoom? Nope, that's 111. 83, 104. Nope, I want to be 100. All right, there we go. Back to 100. Excellent. So these are what the Marine Corps' weapon systems look like. This is probably closer to what your AR-15 would look like. I think this has a 14-inch barrel, so your guys' barrels would probably be a little bit longer if you're in the United States. But there you go. Next up, we've got some nomenclature. So this describes the parts of the weapon system. So I'll go ahead and center these up on the screen. We've got the 3-point sling up here. This is the old sling. They don't use this anymore. They used to use a 3-point sling and a parade sling. Those slings are out of date. Now everything is used with what's called a Vickers sling, which you are able to adjust, and it has the tension capabilities and the carrying capabilities of a parade sling, and it also has the combat capabilities of the 3-point sling. So the new Vickers sling is freaking awesome, and we love it. But this is an old-fashioned 3-point sling, which is what they used for combat and things. And before that, they just had a parade sling, which is essentially just a strap that you have on the gun that connects to the bottom of the gun right here and the top of the gun right there, so you can throw it on your shoulder like a half of a backpack. But anyways, that's a sling. This is an RCO optic, so it's an AN PVS 14 or AN PVS 31, something like that. I think it's a PVS 14 scope is what that thing is called. But anyways, it's an RCO made by Trijicon. It has a little fiber optic on top that collects sunlight and that makes the reticle in the center of the optic glow during high light conditions. And then it also has just a little bit of tritium inside of the optic. So it's got a little bit of radiation, enough radiation to turn a very small optic from black to red. So that's how you get illumination at nighttime. And basically, like it's super safe. It's not like, oh no, radiation. It's just a very small little bit inside of there that will illuminate your optic at nighttime. So that way you're not using a black aiming crosshair at like black nighttime. So there you go. Next up we have the oh man, I'm totally blanking on what this is called. The upper receiver. There we go. My God, I was fucking blanking there. So the upper receiver. This is the part of the weapon where your barrel is connected to the upper receiver, and then you got your firing, your forward assist. You've got your charging handle back here. That's the thing that you pull on in order to basically cock the weapon. That's how you put a round in chamber. That's how you reset the hammer when the hammer has fallen and you need to fire. Is you would cycle the weapon with the charging handle. So it's like that thing, like, on shotguns, you have a pump, on pistols, you have the slide, and then on like assault rifles, you have a charging handle of some sort, or you have man, I can't think of anything that doesn't have a charging handle. But anyways, you have some sort of charging handle. On the Marine Corps M16, it is a T shape and it's in the back. So you just like grab it with your little T-Rex claws, you pull it to the rear, and then you let go like a slingshot, and then it puts a round in the chamber. Over here, we've got the bolt carrier assembly. That's where all of your magic happens inside of the bolt carrier. You have your bolt, which is this little tiny thing. Let's see if I can zoom in any more. Oh, I can. So on the very front is the bolt, and then this big giant piece of metal is the bolt carrier assembly. The bolt carrier, all that it does is it carries the bolt. The bolt is the thing that holds your firing pin and it locks in with the barrel to keep your weapon from exploding every time that you shoot it. So the bolt is probably like one of the most important parts of the weapon system as far as like making sure things are functional. The bolt is like the number one action spot. So then the bolt carrier, you've got a little tiny tube up on the top, which is this is one of my least favorite parts of the AR-15 design. This is the gas receiving tube. I don't know what the official word for it is called, but that's what I call it. And that's basically where the rifle shits on itself every time it goes to take a bite. So one of the things that we like to make fun of in the gun community is the AR-15s and M16s and any sort of Armalite weapon system. It shits where it eats. So essentially what that means is, I'll rewind a little bit here. Every time your weapon fires, there's an explosion that happens inside of the chamber. The explosion is what pushes a piece of lead down the barrel and out of the gun. So that explosion is a whole bunch of gas that's like catching on fire and expanding and pushing the round forward. The round travels down and down and down and down and down and down and down the barrel until it passes this point right here, where there is a tiny, tiny, tiny little hole on the top of the barrel. That tiny, tiny, tiny little hole allows some of the gas to escape and travel backwards, and it goes all the way back here, and then it lands right here on the face of the bolt carrier on this little tube on the top. And that expanding gas causes the bolt carrier to then fly backwards after most of the explosion has happened and the bullet is traveling down the barrel, right? So for the duration of the distance between when the bullet is right here at the front sight post and it's all the way out and exiting the barrel, there's expanding gas inside of there, and that's causing this this bolt carrier to start flying backwards, right? So as that gas is expanding, it is pushing the bolt carrier backwards, so that way it can load another round into the chamber once the spring pushes it back forward, and that's what causes the weapon to cycle. So the explosion happens, most of it pushes the bullet forward, a little tiny bit of it gets redirected backwards, and it pushes the bolt back, which causes the weapon to cycle. Put another bullet in battery, and then you're clear to start firing again. So that's a little bit of an explanation there, but I like to say that it shits where it eats because that exploding gas is like, it's got stuff on it. Just like, if you take your fingers and you put them in front of your car's exhaust, eventually you're going to get black all over your hands from all the unburnt carbon and all the unburnt fuel and everything. Like, have you ever seen somebody roll coal in a diesel truck, like as they're going down the highway and all that smoke comes out of their exhaust? It's like, that's essentially what's happening inside of your gun, is it's shitting all of this carbon, all this unburnt carbon and all this fouling back on top of the bolt carrier, which has a whole bunch of moving parts and pieces, which then push your next round into chamber. So it's basically getting the thing that you need the most in the weapon extremely dirty every time you shoot it. So something to consider with weapon system. The AK-47 does not do it. The M27 IAR does not do it. Any gun system that is piston driven, rather than, this is called direct impingement, where the gas flies back and hits the bolt carrier and causes it to fly backwards. That's direct impingement. Any sort of short stroke or long stroke piston driven weapon, the gas will not get all over the bolt carrier and cause it to get dirty and cause it to get foul and all that stuff. This is why, like, everybody makes fun, or maybe not everybody, but the shooting community in general makes a lot of fun of the AR-15 for like, oh, it's a dirty gun and it jams a lot. It's like, yeah, it'll jam after, like 1,000 or 2,000 rounds. It'll start running kind of like crunchy. It sounds like, two pieces of sandpaper grinding against each other. But like you can still shoot it for 1,000 or 2,000 rounds without cleaning it and you'll be fine. And even after you get to that point, you just start throwing some oil in there and everything will work hunky dory. But the point is that, like, the weapon system cannot be fired infinitely because it just keeps getting dirty because it shits where it eats. So that's a quick little disclaimer there about using AR-15s and anything that's direct impingement. So AK-47s, Styrogs, G36s, pretty much every single weapon system other than the AR-15 and the M16 and the M4 use some sort of piston to push the bolt carrier back instead of throwing all this dirty carbon fouling and everything back on the bolt carrier group. I gotta hand it to Eugene Stoner. He designed a really good weapon system for the time. The AR-15 platform was invented like around the Vietnam time, so 1960s. So this weapon system has been around for a very, very, very long time, like over 20 years, or excuse me, over 60 years. This weapon system has been around. So there's plenty other newer weapons that don't do this, but this is the most commonly adapted weapon in the Western world. So just something to know about it and something to keep in mind. One of the things that you can do to stop from getting fouling all over the thing is by having like chrome plated parts and pieces, or just by taking good care of your gun and cleaning it every time you shoot it. Basically, you're just looking to get rid of all the carbon fouling and leave a light layer of like oil and lubricant to allow the weapon to function. So the AR-15 also has really tight tolerances, which means it's much more accurate than weapons with very loose tolerances like the AK-47 or the AK-74. So just some things to think about. But anyways, that's enough about direct impingement and the bolt carrier group. We're going to continue talking about the weapon parts. So here we have the trigger. Here we have the trigger guard. You can actually take this little pin out and you can fold that down in winter conditions, so that way you can use this gun with gloves on. But yeah, there you go. There are two takedown pins right here and right here on the front and the back of the lower receiver. By the way, this whole piece is called the lower receiver. This is the part of the weapon that is actually considered a gun from a technical standpoint. You can buy this, 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 you can buy all those things without having it going through the legal gun process in the United States. But if you want to buy a quote unquote weapon, you can buy this piece right here, and that is considered the gun in the United States. So this part is the actual firearm of the piece, and that's just because of ATF nomenclature and things. Right up here, you see this little triangle. That is the hammer. That is the device that smacks onto the firing pin, and then the firing pin goes and hits the bullet, and then that causes the bullet to fire. So this hammer is what needs to strike the weapon. Every time you pull the trigger, the hammer goes forwards. This over here is the buttstock and the buffer tube assembly. Back here inside of this tube right here is a gigantic spring that is what pushes this bolt carrier back forward. Every time the bolt carrier or every time the weapon fires, the bolt carrier goes to the rear. It goes like almost all the way inside this tube, and then it's pushed forward by the spring again. So you need this tube part of the gun in order for the weapon to fire. And there's a spring and a little piece of aluminum hidden inside of here that pushes your bolt carrier forwards after every shot. And so that's some of the nomenclature of the AR-15. So there we go. All right, we're going to continue reading on. We're going to zoom all the way out so we can see the whole page. So this describes those things that I just described to you. So there you go. Here is a description of the safety, as I was just explaining to you guys earlier. We have safe with the little tiny arrow pointed forwards. We have semi-automatic when it's pointed upwards, and we have burst fire when it is pointed off to the rear. So you guys don't have to worry about burst fire, theoretically, because you probably don't have burst weapons. But if you do, that's where it would be located. Or if you have a binary trigger or a forced reset trigger, that's where the binary or forced reset option would be. Next up, we got the magazine release button. As I was showing you guys earlier, the magazine release button is right up here. This is a zoomed in view of it. That's what you push in order to release the magazine. This is your charging handle back here, as I was describing earlier. This is your bolt catch or your bolt release. That's what you press to send the bolt home. Oh, and then there's the optic. Oh, I was right. And PVQ 31 alpha. 31, not 13. So the PVQ 31 is the optic that the Marine Corps uses. And again, it is made by Trigicon. It's a super high quality optic. I like them a lot. You can beat the fuck out of them, and they still operate pretty damn good. Like, you would be surprised the shit that I saw while in my 2 years on the rifle range when I was teaching people, like how much dropping people would do with their optic, and it would still shoot just fine. So there you go. There's a little bit of excuse me, a little bit of explanation of what are the parts and pieces of the optic. We don't really have to worry about this too much. Every optic is more or less different, but you've got the objective lens, some thumb screws, a Picatinny mount, all sorts of cool things. This is actually what it looks like on the inside of the optic. So in the very middle, you have a chevron, which is this upside down V-shaped thing right here. The chevron, the tip of the chevron, right, the very top of it indicates 100 yards or 100 meters, excuse me. And that's like where you shoot for a target that's 100 meters away. The, oh, excuse me, the lower half of the tip of the chevron. So if you imagine there's a top point and then there is a bottom point of the chevron. The bottom point is 200 yards. The this little, oh man, I can't zoom in. I can zoom in more, can I? Oh, this little post right here, the tip of the post is 300 yards, and then you have 400, 500, 600, 700, and 800 yards worth of optics that you can use to uh, that's that's the crosshairs at that distance. So presuming the target is 400 yards away, you shoot the target with the 4. If the target is 300 meters away, you shoot it with the tip of this little tiny post right here. If it's 800 meters away, you shoot it with this thing. All right. And this is presuming that there is no windage or anything that'll fuck up your side-to-side shooting. So there you go. All right. Methods for mounting the rifle combat optic. I'm not going to explain to you guys how to mount it. You basically align these little pins with these little gaps inside of the Picatinny rail, and then you screw it tight, and there it is. Now, you will probably be using a different optic than this, but the point of optics is you want to make sure that they're mounted snugly and tightly and that they can't move. One of the things that we do in the Marine Corps is we use Loctite sometimes, or we use some sort of other glue to make sure that these screws don't move after they've been screwed down tightly. So there you go. Some information and tips and tricks. All right. And then it describes the tritium lamp. So reminder that the tritium lamp is radioactive, but it's not like problematically radioactive. Just like everything in life is radioactive. Your phone is radioactive, but you don't have to worry about it. The radiation in the tritium lamp is what illuminates the reticle in low light and complete darkness. So there you guys go. The red chevron will also appear illuminated in daylight because there is a little fiber optic on the very top of this optic here. So there you go. All right, let's see. We got some accessories here too. Oh boy, some of these accessories are not necessarily available for you guys. So here we got the fucking the noob tube, the fucking grenade launcher that's at the bottom of the gun. So you guys probably don't have to worry about that. Over here is a broomstick or a firing grip that's also doubles as a bipod. Over here you have a laser that you can mount on the front. It's both infrared and visible light spectrum. So you can either put a visible light red light on your target, or you can do an infrared green light or infrared flashlight on your target as well, which allows you to use like your night vision to look at things so that people can't see it when they don't have night vision. So there you go. The vertical foregrip, the broomstick. So this is just a regular vertical foregrip, and this one is a bipod foregrip. So these ones are pretty cool. You just push this little button and a bipod deploys. And then congratulations, you've got 2 points of contact instead of just 1. So those things are pretty nifty and useful. I like them. They're fucking sturdy. These things are all right. But I prefer these ones simply because you can use it as a bipod if you want. So there you go. Let's see what else we got here. Oh, backup iron sights. Backup iron sights are important. So the backup iron sight, or the BUIS, B-U-I-S, backup iron sight, is probably pretty important, and you should have one if you've got an optic. If you've got an optic and no backup iron sights, then what are you going to do if your optic fogs up, or if it gets a crack, or something bad happens to it? It's always good to have a pair of rock solid irons ready to use in the event that your optic goes down. Next up, they describe the slings. So they got the 3-point tactical sling and the web sling, but we're not going to worry about that too much. This is a devil dog right here showing you how to put on a 3-point sling. You basically just shoot your arm through there, and you put your head through there, and the 3-point sling wraps around your body. It goes around the front and the back and allows you to like let go of the weapon, and the weapon just kind of hangs on your body right there. So super simple and easy. And then this is an old-fashioned parade sling. This is basically just a glorified strap that that for some fucking reason we would always like tighten around our arms in order to get like a rock solid sling, so that way you could like create like a really solid shooting position. We don't do that anymore because we have better slings now. We have the Vickers sling, so you no longer have to cut off the circulation to your arm in order to do some good shooting while you're in a standing position or anything. You now have a better sling, but this book unfortunately does not cover it. So there you guys go. We can laugh at this outdated book right here. Yeah, as you can see, so this is how you would kind of use the sling in order to like provide a stability point. So essentially, that sling is taking up all the tension between his arm and the weapon. So like it's almost a solid as long as you're pushing forward into it, it's almost solid. So you can like just sit there and your weapon stays like real steady in the front, and you can maneuver the background to see the things that you want to shoot. And that's what the old loop sling is and how it used to work. So here's a picture of a Marine utilizing the loop sling. Uh, and he's got a little bit of a bitch hip stance going on right here, but he's probably doing long range shooting or something like that. So we're not gonna make too much fun of him. But yeah, these are some of the Marines demonstrating a parade sling. So there you go. And here's some of the ammo that they use in the Marine Corps. You got green tip, you got red tip, you got dummies, you got blanks, and I don't fucking know what these things are. But basically, don't worry about that. If you see green tip ammunition, then it's like, hey, that's the standard of the U.S. military. If you see red tip, then that means it's a tracer round, and that's all you need to know. Blanks, obviously, they don't have the projectile in them; it just has the powder. So it'll go boom, but there will be nothing that comes out. You still can hurt people with blanks, so just because they're blanks doesn't mean it's safe to shoot people. Oh, look at this. So this describes what I was telling you guys earlier about how when the firing happens, there's a little tiny explosion that happens inside the chamber, and it pushes the bullet forward. So as you can see, like the round has been struck, and the ignition starts happening, then it explodes, and it pushes the bullet forwards, right? As the bullet is traveling down the barrel, it starts spinning because the rifle or the barrel has what's called rifling to it. So it's basically got these little grooves that go in a circle. It does one circle every 7 inches or every 9 inches, depending on what your rifling spec is. But every X, Y, and Z number of inches in length, it will do one full rotation of the bullet. And that basically puts a football spin on the bullet, which makes the bullet fly straighter than if it didn't have a football spin. So rifling is a really cool design that keeps things going forwards and makes things accurate. So there you go. Next, we're going to cover the cycle of operations. So we did this a little bit in the last course when we covered pistol marksmanship, but I'll go ahead and cover this with you guys here again. So the cycle of operations is called a cycle of operations because it is a cycle. It goes in a circle and it repeats over and over and over again. So I'm going to go ahead and do the uncouth thing, and I'm going to draw on the back of my other Marine Corps book, and I will start with the cycle of operations. The first step that we have, as you guys can see on there, is firing. So that's when the weapon is sending the round out of the chamber, and all the explosions happening and all that good stuff, right? So the cycle of operation is as follows. We got firing, unlocking, extracting, ejecting, cocking, feeding, chambering, locking. Cocking, feeding, chambering, locking. Bam. Firing, unlocking, extracting, boom. Ejecting, cocking, feeding. I wish I could write faster so you guys didn't have to just sit there. Firing, locking, extracting, ejecting, cocking, feeding, chambering, locking. I don't know why in the book right there they did not include this graphic, but this is a good way to think about the cycle of operations, right? So we start up here, firing, unlocking, extracting, ejecting, cocking, feeding, chambering, locking, and then you're ready to fire again. So every time you pull the trigger, this whole circle happens. And if the circle is interrupted for any reason, then the weapon's not going to fire again. So if you fire and the weapon doesn't unlock, then if you fire and the weapon doesn't unlock, then you've got a round jammed inside your barrel. If it doesn't eject, then you've got a stovepipe. If it doesn't feed again, then you've got a failure to feed. If it doesn't lock again, then your weapon simply won't fire. So like anything that interrupts the cycle of operations will stop the weapon from shooting, and you gotta conduct what we call remedial or corrective action in order to get the weapon back in the fight or to get the weapon sending rounds back down range again. So we'll go ahead and describe a little bit of the cycle of operations. So starting with firing, we've got the hammer releases and strikes the head of the firing pin. So here you can see the hammer. It is the black thing that is blocked off by the this part of the bolt carrier group. So the hammer is normally sitting cocked back like this. When you press the trigger, the hammer goes wha-bam, and it strikes the firing pin. The firing pin then hits the bullet, and or it hits the very back of the bullet, and the primer goes off, and the primer ignites the gunpowder that is inside of the brass, and then the gunpowder explodes and pushes the round down the barrel, like I was telling you earlier. Once the round is down past a certain part of the barrel, a little bit of the gas is redirected upwards and pushed back onto the bolt face. As you guys can see right here, like I was telling you, we've got this pipe on top of the bolt carrier. This is the gas tube right here that you can see. So that gas tube shoots gas back at the bolt carrier group, which causes it to start going backwards. So when it starts going backwards, you can see it pulls this big giant metal piece right here is separate from this tiny little bolt carrier. So you can see the bolt carrier is pressed up nice and tight to the round, or to the bullet assembly. And then when it unlocks, it pushes the bolt carrier back, and a little bit of the bolt is outside of the bolt carrier. So what that does is the bolt is here's the bolt carrier, and here's your barrel. So when the bolt carrier is melded with the barrel, it is locked in place like this, and then when it unlocks, it goes like that, and that's what allows it to go in and out. So every time the weapon loads, it goes all the way in, and then it locks in place. And then before it can unlock, it has to go backwards and come out like that. That's what stops the explosion from like sending everything back in your face, is every time there's a little camming action and the bolt carrier locks in place. You can actually see all these little tiny lugs on the end of the bolt carrier. It doesn't show it in this diagram, but inside of the chamber, there are identical and opposite lugs that stop it from moving. Imagine it being kind of like a piece that goes like this and hooks in place. And then in order for it to unhook, it has to go like this and then move out. So it's like you see my hands, they're misaligned right there, and then now they're aligned. So when it unlocks, it basically just does this, except it's rotating instead of moving sideways. So that's the firing process. That's the unlocking process. Next, we have the extracting. So the bolt carrier is moving backwards at this point in time. It is pulling this piece of brass out of the chamber. The brass is empty. There's no more bullet. There's no more powder in it. So it's pulling it out so that way it can put a new one in later, right? So it starts extracting it out of the chamber. The next part is the ejecting. There's a little tiny spring on the bolt carrier that after it gets past a certain point, the spring goes poing, and it shoots the piece of brass. As you guys can see, the brass has been launched all the way back. So it extracts, then it ejects. And then the next part is the cocking. So while this is all happening, the bolt carrier, as you guys can see, is moving back, and it's actually pushing this hammer right here. It's pushing it backwards so that the hammer can relock into place. So that way, when you're ready to press the trigger again, the hammer will then go forwards. So, excuse me, after it ejects, it locks the hammer in place, and that's the cocking part. Oh my goodness, excuse me. I'm just a burping machine. All right, next up. So it's cocked. The hammer has been cocked. The next thing is it needs to feed a new bullet into the chamber. So the bolt carrier moves forward. It grabs the topmost bullet off of the magazine, right? So the bolt carrier goes back like this, and then it scoops up the next bullet and pushes it into the chamber and then locks it in place, right? So every time it does that, it grabs a new bullet out of the magazine and locks it into the chamber. So cocking and then the feeding, that's the next part, is it's feeding the bullet in. So there's a little diagram of that. Chambering, so it has been chambered in place, and as you guys can see, the bolt carrier is still in this tiny position, and it hasn't locked in place yet. And then once this little tube marries up with this guy, that's how you know that the weapon is locked. This little thing right here should be rotated. They didn't show that in the diagram, but all these little tiny locking lugs will then go back in place and lock with each other inside the top of the weapon. So chambering and then locking. So the locking is the final part that must happen before the weapon shoots, and then it's ready to rock and roll. And then you continue back at the beginning of the cycle of operations again. So just as a quick reminder, we've got firing, unlocking, extracting, ejecting, cocking, feeding, chambering, locking. So that is the cycle of operations for the M16, M4, service rifle, whatever you want to call it, AR-15. Next up, we've got what looks like some preventative maintenance. Oh boy, preventative maintenance. Everything in the world breaks, so you have to maintain it. Otherwise, it will break again. So you have to put oil in your car. You have to, feed your body. You have to do stretches in the morning if you don't want to get old and stiff and stuff. So everything needs preventative maintenance. So basically, with the M16 and the M4, the preventative maintenance is you take it apart, you look at the parts and pieces. If everything looks like it's pretty normal, then you're A-okay. If you see giant cracks or giant pieces missing, or like burrs or like mashed up metal or things that look like it's been hit with a hammer or something like that, and everything's bent and fucky, then that's an indicator that like that piece needs to be discarded or fixed or improved or something along those lines. And then the other parts of preventative maintenance is you just need to clean off the fouling. You need to clean off all the shit where it's shat where it's ate, and then lubricate it, because anytime you have metal on metal contact, it will generate a shit ton of heat, and you don't want a lot of heat. You want your weapon to glide smoothly. So you have to imagine there's like a little tiny film of oil in between anywhere where metal on metal contacts each other. So always remember to lubricate all of the metal on metal parts inside of your weapon. Anything that's a moving part, you should lubricate it so that way it doesn't jam up and doesn't foul up. So there you go. All right, let's see what we've got next. Main group disassembly. So this is talking about disassembling the weapon. Okay, so here we have the disassembly of the bolt carrier group. So, bam, nice and pretty. Let me bring that over to the side. All right, so this is your bolt carrier disassembled. So as I was showing you guys earlier, this little device right here is the bolt carrier, or the bolt carrier group, I should say. You have the upper receiver group, you have the lower receiver group, and you have the bolt carrier group. The most important thing to take care of is the bolt carrier group, because it holds the bolt. This is the bolt right here. You can actually see those locking lugs a little bit prettier there. There's 8 of them in total. A starfish pattern. But this is the bolt carrier. This is the big piece of metal that moves everything. This is your retaining cotter key. This is your firing pin. This is your cam. This is your bolt carrier. This is your extractor retaining pin. And then this is your extractor. So these are the things that you just gotta take apart when you're disassembling the weapon. I wish I had one with me that I could take apart for you guys, but YouTube might ban me and get me in trouble. So we're just not going to do that. But those are all the parts and pieces of your bolt carrier as it is disassembled. So there you go. Be careful not to damage the tip of the firing pin when pushing out the extractor retaining pin. Yeah, the firing pin is probably one of the more important parts, because that's the thing that hits the bullet and makes it go kabang. This is what your lower receiver looks like when it's disassembled. This is the return spring that I was telling you about, or the recoil spring. And this is that piece of aluminum that I was telling you about that like slows down the travel of the bolt carrier as it's going to the rear. This is what a magazine looks like disassembled. Super simple. You have your spring, you have a plastic follower, you have a floor plate, and then you have the body of the magazine itself. This is a cleaning kit. It's basically got a whole bunch of metal sticks that you screw together that you can jam down the barrel in the event that something bad happens. It's got a little Q-tip holder device right here. As you can see, it's kind of like the eye of a needle. You just put a piece of cloth in there and you push it down the barrel, and that's how you clean the barrel out. It's also got a copper and steel bristle brush, a plastic and nylon bristle brush, some cleaning pipe cleaner things, a smaller bristle brush, or steel and copper brush, and then I'm guessing this is just a generic cleaning cloth. So there you go. And some oil. You need to make sure you have some oil to lubricate, clean, and protect your weapon. All right. Cleaning the magazine, cleaning the weapon, lubricating, reassembly. Nah, we're not going to teach you guys reassembly, because that is just crazy. Functions check. Functions checks are important. Anytime you take apart a weapon and you put it back together, you need to make sure that the weapon works correctly before you go and try and send rounds downrange. So what that means is you need to test the safe function and you need to test the fire function. Basically, you put the weapon together and you simulate firing as if you had ammunition, but you don't have ammunition. So what that means is the first thing you do is you take your weapon after you reassemble it, you put the weapon on safe, right? So you flick that safety selector switch until the weapon is on the safe mode, and then you attempt to fire, and nothing should happen, right? Then you put the weapon on fire, you pull the trigger, and you should hear a clicking noise, which is the hammer falling, and the hammer goes forward, and the spring that pushes the hammer makes it hit the firing pin. Then so I should have said you pull the trigger and you hold, so you don't let go of the trigger. So you hear that clunk, which is the hammer hitting the firing pin, and then you take the charging handle, you pull the charging handle to the rear, and you release. That simulates the explosion going on and pushing the bolt carrier back and reloading the next round, which is what recocks the hammer. And then once you pull and release the charging handle, then you can let go of the trigger, and you should hear a small clunking noise. That is the hammer resetting, ready to be fired again. So again, you pull the trigger, the hammer should fall. You cycle the weapon, you release the trigger, and the hammer should make a clicking noise. The clicking noise is it being in its final resting place before you pull the trigger again, and the hammer would fall again. And then you just cock it and release, etc., etc. So that's the general basics of a functions check. And again, the purpose of that is to determine, like, hey, is the weapon system working before you actually start throwing rounds in it and sending things downrange. So there you go. User serviceability inspection. Basically, I guess I'll walk you through the serviceability inspection. That's pretty important. So, before you start shooting the weapon, you want to make sure the weapon works. And this is just something you should do periodically, anyways, right? Especially after every time you take it apart and clean it, you just want to make sure that you did a good job and that nothing's wrong with it. Same thing as, like, periodically on your car, you check your tire pressure, or you make sure that your headlights are working, or you make sure that your blinkers are working. You make sure your windshield wipers are working. Shout out to anyone who works at Jiffy Lube. You guys are well familiar with all of the serviceability inspections that people have to do on cars. So for those of you that change your own oil, you probably don't know this, but when you go to Jiffy Lube, they'll ask you to turn on your headlights. They'll ask you to turn on your blinkers. They'll ask you to turn on your left and your right. They'll ask you to step on the brakes. They're checking all of your lights for you, making sure that your car is still safe and that all of the things are still functional. So with a service weapon, the first thing you do is you grab a hold of the compensator on the front of the barrel. You make sure that it's tight. You grab the barrel, make sure that it's tight, not loose and floppy. Next thing is you make sure the barrel is clear of obstruction. So you break the weapon down in half using those takedown pins, and you physically look down the barrel from the chamber side, right? So realistically, this part of the weapon would be folded down like so. So you just look down the barrel and make sure there's nothing stuck in the barrel. It'd be a damn shame if you go to shoot something and there's something stuck inside your barrel and the weapon fucking explodes on you in front of your face. So you want to make sure every time before you shoot that you look down the barrel, not from the front because that's the danger side. You look down the barrel from the back side to make sure that everything is clear and free of obstruction. So after you break the weapon down, like in the shotgun style, you take out that retaining pin. You got to pull out the bolt carrier. You take out the charging handle, all that stuff. You just look down the barrel and you make sure that everything's safe, right? Next thing you do is you make sure that your rails and your covers are not loose and floppy. And then let's see what's after that. That the RCO, your optic is securely mounted to the weapon. If you have a floppy optic, then it's not going to hold a zero, and you're not going to be able to shoot things accurately because if every time you shoot it flops to a different position, then your shots are going to be all over the place. And you don't want that. Next up, you make sure that the gas tube is securely fixed. So you can't really figure that, but you have to take the weapon down. You look on the inside. Remember how I was showing you that little gas tube where it marries up with the bolt carrier group where it shits where it eats? You just reach down in there and you fiddle with it. If it doesn't move, then it's good. If it moves, then it's bad. It's not supposed to move. Make sure the gas tube is securely fixed. You make sure the bolt carrier group is properly assembled. So if you're missing your firing pin, if you're missing your cotter key, your retaining pin, if you're missing your bolt, if you're missing parts of the bolt carrier group, then the weapon's not going to function as operated. Next, you make sure that the magazine release is functional. When you press on the magazine release, that the magazine comes out of the weapon. So for this thing, right, magazine release is not where it normally is on an AR-15. This would be the normal AR-15 magazine release spot, but because this is a Nerf Fortnite gun, for some reason they put it down here instead. So this is how AKs release their magazine. So you want to make sure that the magazine release is functional. What's next? That the pistol grip is tight, that the trigger guard release pin is locked into place so that this bad boy doesn't flop down while you're shooting. Next thing that you do is you make sure that your ejection port cover operates correctly. So this thing right here, we didn't really talk about it a whole lot, but this device right here on a regular AR-15 M16 is called an ejection port cover. This thing you can actually fold up and close. So it's got a little spring inside of there that as soon as you shoot it, it'll flop open automatically and allow the bullets to be like shot out of the weapon or not the bullets, the spent casings to be shot out of the weapon. But when you're not actively shooting, you want that bad boy closed, so that way you don't get dirt and bugs and fucking whatever the hell crawling up inside your weapon. So you want to make sure that your ejector port cover functions correctly, that it closes and opens well. You want to make sure that your rear sight elevation and windage knobs are adjustable, that they're not like you haven't lost your rear sight, and that you're able to make adjustments while you're shooting. If you need to change where your point of aim is, or if you need to change your zero. Next, you want to make sure that the stock is tight on the lower receiver. You make sure that the buffer tube is not cracked and that it is straight. Then you make sure that the weapon is properly lubricated for operational conditions, and then you make sure that the weapon sling is appropriate for whatever that you're doing. So, like if you're just out at the range with the boys, you could use a piece of string. If you're in a combat environment, you probably want a combat environment sling that'll be able to do the things that you need to do while you're under a bunch of stress and everything. So that's how you do a weapon serviceability inspection for the AR-15. Let's see what is. Oh, next we're going to do a different chapter. So weapons handling is what we're covering next. So weapons handling procedures provide a consistent and standardized way for Marines or shooters to handle, operate, and employ the service rifle safely and effectively. Proper weapons handling procedures ensure the safety of everybody by eliminating negligent discharges and reinforcing positive identification of targets before engagement. Apply at all levels of training and during combat operations. So the first part of every effective range is having some cool safety rules. So the 4 weapons safety rules are: 1, treat every weapon as if it were loaded; 2, never point a weapon at anything you do not intend to shoot; 3, keep your fingers straight and off the trigger until you're ready to fire; and 4, keep the weapon on safe until you intend to fire. So those are, and then there's an unspoken rule, which is number 5, which is like know your target and what's past it. So obviously, like if you're shooting at a whole bunch of paper targets and there's something that you don't want to shoot behind it, then you don't shoot, or something along those lines. Like if there's a whole bunch of kids or fluffy puppies or whatever the hell that are in the area that you're shooting, it's like, oh, I probably shouldn't shoot my paper targets while there's children and fluffy puppies over there. So those are the 4/5 safety rules. Next up, we've got weapons conditions. So, condition 1, you've got safety on, magazine inserted, round and chamber, bolt forward, ejection port cover closed. So basically, this weapon right here, presuming that we have the capability of putting a round in the chamber, would be condition 1, right? So I'm gonna rejigger the weapons conditions to be a little bit more relatable for you guys. Basically, the important point to think about is condition 1 is ready to shoot. Condition 2 doesn't apply, so we're not going to worry about it. That's for machine guns and things. Condition 3 is the weapon is almost ready to shoot. And then condition 4 is the weapon is totally safe. So you've got 1, 3, and 4, right? Ready to shoot, almost ready to shoot, and totally safe. So this is a weapon that is we're just going to say, for the sake of argument, that the weapon is ready to shoot. We're going to say that there is a round in the chamber. You can't actually put a round in the chamber with a fucking Nerf gun because the chamber is, just always there. So condition 1, magazine in the weapon, round in chamber, right? That is condition 1. Condition 2 is magazine in the weapon, and I'll actually take all the rounds out of this to do a good demonstration of what is all right. So there's no rounds in the magazine. So condition 2 does not apply. Condition 1 is, fucking danger, right? There's a bullet in the chamber. This is a magazine, but for the sake of argument, with the weapon, there's a loaded magazine, and you've already cocked the weapon, and there's a round in the chamber. You just haven't pulled the trigger yet. So condition 1 would be you've got a gun, you've got a bullet, you put it in, and then you go ready to shoot, right? Condition 3, which is the next one, is you've got a gun, you put the magazine in, but you have not done this part yet. You haven't loaded it. You haven't pumped the slide if it's a shotgun. You haven't pulled the T-handle to the rear if it's an M16. You haven't charged it if it's an AK. Or you haven't pulled on the slide if it's a pistol. Right. Condition 3 is you've put a magazine in and you're almost ready to shoot, but you still got one more step before you can shoot, which is the cocking of the weapon. Right. So condition 1, ready to shoot. There's a round in the chamber. Magazine inserted, round in chamber. Condition 2 is magazine inserted, but the chamber is empty. Condition 3 is, God damn it, I keep forgetting condition 2 does not apply. Condition 1, round in chamber, magazine in the weapon. Condition 2 doesn't apply. Condition 3, magazine in the weapon, but the chamber is empty. Condition 4 is there's no magazine in the gun and the chamber is empty. So the two things that you're keeping track of is the chamber and the magazine. So if the chamber is empty and the magazine's empty, condition 4. If the chamber is empty but the magazine's in, condition 3. If the chamber is full and the magazine is full, it's condition 1. So there you guys go. I probably over-explained that like a motherfucker, but that's okay. Y'all are pretty smart, so you can handle it. I am quite sure. So there you go. That's a little bit of the weapons conditions. So determining a weapon condition, that's the next thing. So whenever somebody gives you a weapon and you don't know what it is, the polite thing for them to do is for them to be like, "Hey guys, the weapon is clear. Look, there's nothing up in the chamber. Fucking I can stick my finger up in there. There's nothing in there. There's no magazine inside. Nothing's there, right? So this is a condition 4 weapon right now. This is the correct way to hand off a weapon to somebody is you give them a condition 4 weapon in such a way that they can grab the danger part and they can see that everything is safe. So if you're a good person and you're a polite person and you're following good procedures, you give them a cleared weapon. Now, in some cases, you have to hand people loaded weapons, in which event you have to say, like, hey, this gun is loaded. Be careful. The safety's on, but there's a round in the chamber. It's condition 1. Or you could say, hey, this weapon's condition 3, right? The weapon is not loaded. There's no round in the chamber, but there is a magazine that's full of bullets in the weapon, right? The best way to hand a weapon to somebody is with an empty chamber and no magazine. But in the event that you have to do otherwise, then you just need to let them know. But if someone's giving you a gun in an emergency scenario and you don't know what condition it is, you need to find out. So how do you find out if there's a magazine in the weapon? Well, you fucking look at it. If there's a magazine there, then you know there's a magazine there. The next thing you would have to do is you would have to check the chamber. So the way that you can do that on an AR-15, I can't show you here with this plastic one, but you'd pull the charging handle back just a little bit until you can see inside of the chamber. And if there's a little piece of brass in there, then it's like, oh, brass means bullet, so that means that the weapon is loaded. So that's how you know. But the correct way to hand a weapon to somebody, like in almost any scenario, unless it's like life or death or something, is condition 4, no magazine with an empty chamber. And it's always best to both verbally describe something while showing them and physically proving it. So we're being super duper redundant here. I'm saying the weapon is safe. I'm showing you that it's safe visually, and I'm kinesthetically showing you that it's safe. So it's like, hey, this weapon is safe. Here you go. Boom, boom, boom. Check, check, check. It's all redundant. It's all good to go. So that's how you do that sort of. That's how you go through that process right there. And then basically this whole paragraph describes all this stuff. So you do the chamber check, you you discover an unmanned service rifle in combat. Ugh, there you go. Taking charge of another Marine's weapon. So yeah, it's like, oh, you're an idiot. I need to take your gun from you so you don't kill yourself or other people. So there's some conditions in which case you need to do this stuff. So here are some diagrams where it shows the Marines doing a chamber check. So he's pulling the charging handle to the rear and he is sticking his grubby little mitt inside of the chamber. You can see just a little bit of brass right there. So that shows you that the weapon is loaded. So he's pulling back on the charging handle and he's physically touching the chamber because there's a magazine in the weapon and there's a round in the chamber. So he's just physically checking to make sure that he knows what it is. So this is a right-handed check. This is a left-handed check doing the same thing, but he's using his thumb. And you can also visually see the little piece of brass right there. So bam-balam. There you guys go. All right. What is next? Weapons commands. We're not going to worry about that. Load and make ready. That's Marine Corps cycle of like range stuff. Let's see. Catching the rounds. We're not worried about that. Observing the chamber. So that's how you can physically inspect or visually inspect the chamber to make sure that everything is safe and rocking and rolling. Yeah, this is all basically using the buddy system to be like, hey, not only am I looking at the gun, but you're also looking at it to make sure that it's double safe. So there we go. This is having to do with Marine Corps rifle range stuff. Oh, next up, loading. All right, so this is the way that a lot of rounds come when you're in the military. I'm not sure how rounds come in the civilian world, but I imagine they're not on nice, clean, pretty stripper clips like this is. So this is a stripper clip. You can tell it's a stripper clip because obviously this looks like it's going to go pole dancing and show you its titties later. But this is a stripper clip. So essentially, this little piece of metal is hugging the back of all of these bullets right here. So all of these bullet assemblies. So what you do is you take this little piece of steel, you slide it into the top half of this essentially small funnel. and then you take the funnel and you put it on top of the magazine, kind of like what he's doing. You see over here, he has put the funnel on top of the magazine, so it makes a little hat, and then you put the stripper clip inside the hat, and then does it show? Oh, it doesn't show. Wow, that's lame. They only put a couple of diagrams in there. But anyways, after you get this magazine on top of after you get the stripper clip on top of the magazine, this is 10 rounds. Stripper clips come in groups of 10, but you can basically just take the whole thing and you just push the rounds inside the magazine. And congratulations, your magazine is 1/3 of the way loaded. This magazine holds 30 rounds, generally speaking. Or most magazines hold 30 rounds, generally speaking. But yeah, so you can put 3 of these bad boys inside of the gun. You want to make sure that you don't put the entire stripper clip in there. Some people will accidentally do that. The stripper clip should come off when you put the bullets inside of the gun. This thing should not allow the stripper clip to go inside the magazine. That would be bad. So that's how all of that works. Bam, bam, bam. You'd be surprised how many people in the Marine Corps, people that are allegedly trained on this stuff, shove the entire stripper clip inside the magazine. All right, let's see what's next. Issued gear. We're not worried about that. But look at this. Look at this motivated devil dog with his flak jacket, his groin protector, his helmet. He's got his like little magazine carriers. He's ready to rock and roll. Principles of reloading. Oh, this is actually pretty important. So while reloading, okay, I'm gonna read this. When performing a reload, the first priority is to reload the service rifle and get it back into action. The second priority is to retain the magazine so that when you move, the magazine moves with you. When time permits, retain magazine securely on your person, i.e. in your pockets, in your vest, in your drop pouch, whatever the heck. The combat situation may dictate dropping the magazine to the deck when performing a speed reload. This is acceptable as long as the magazine is picked up before moving on to another location and if the tactical situation permits. Obviously, magazines are cheap, guys, in the real world. If you're getting shot at, don't worry about retaining your magazine. Just fucking do what you need to do. But like if you're at the range, you don't want to just throw those bitches away when it falls on the ground. So there you go. Bam. So while reloading, the main focus is the tactical situation. So keeping your eyes on the muzzle of the gun and downrange at the thing that you're shooting. So like while I'm sitting here, with my gun, it's like bang, 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 bang. Oh no, I've run dry. Drop the magazine, but keeping my eyes downrange on the weapon and on the thing that I'm shooting at. I'm not like down here looking at all the magazines and doing all this craziness. Is like, nope. I need to keep looking at the bad guys, keep looking at the target, and then I like fish around on my person for the next magazine and I put it in. So that's what it's describing there. Ooh, look at that. You get to see my refrigerator. All right. So a tactical reload is when there is when it's like, oh man, I've been shooting for a lot, but I don't remember how many rounds are left in my magazine. For those of you guys that play video games, you do tac reloads all the time. So it's like, oh, I've shot fucking 12 times and I want to have a nice fresh magazine of 30 rounds. So I just drop the 12-round magazine, put it in my back pocket or something, grab a fresh magazine, put it back in. That's a tactical reload. You don't have to recock it or anything because there should already be a round in the chamber. So that's a tactical reload. A speed reload is when you run out of ammunition completely. And it's like bang, 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 bang. Oh fuck! Better like fucking get that empty magazine out and put a fresh one in. That's a speed reload. Tactical reload is like, oh, I've got time. There's like a things have started popping and I don't know what's going on, but I have time to conduct a reload. That's tactical. Then a speed reload is like, uh-oh, pressure's on, get it done. So there you guys go. Corrective action. This is actually pretty important. So we're going to zoom in on this. So corrective action. If the service rifle fails to fire, corrective action should be performed by the shooter. Corrective action is the process of investigating the cause of the stoppage, clearing the stoppage, and returning the weapon to proper operating status. So once the service rifle ceases firing, the Marine must physically or visually observe the ejection port to identify the problem before he can clear it. The steps taken to clear the weapon are based on observation of one of the indicators discussed in the following paragraphs. So, when something bad happens, you have to look at the gun in order to determine the bad thing happening, right? So, if your cycle of operations is interrupted, if you go to shoot the weapon and it does not fire, that means that you need to employ corrective action. The most common thing that stops your weapon from firing is you've run out of ammo. So the corrective action for running out of ammo is dropping the magazine, getting a new one, putting it in, and then voila, you have, and then you reset the gun, you recock it, and then congratulations, you're ready to rock and roll again. So that's the most common thing that goes wrong with weapons, is you run out of ammo because you've shot it all. The next most common thing is a double feed, or a stovepipe, or a brass over well, actually brass over bolt is real fucking rare. But a double feed is when you've got two bullets trying to be in one place. So I'll keep this PG here, but the idea is, with a double feed, sometimes what'll happen is there will be a round in the chamber, right? So there's a bullet that's already up in there, and then your weapon will not extract it when it pulls it out after it's done shooting, and it'll try and feed another bullet up in there, and so you'll have two bullets trying to be where only one can fit. So that's a double feed. So when that happens, all that you have to do is, and the way you would notice it is, like, you turn the weapon over to the side and you look down there and you're just like, oh, I see two bullets where there should only be one, right? So it would look something, it would look something like, and I have to, like, remember to put my fingers in such a way that the camera can see. A double feed would look something like that, right? When you open the ejection port cover, it's like, oh, there's two bullets where there should be one. The correct thing to do in that scenario is, one, take the magazine. My hands are all fucky here. Take the magazine out of the weapon, right? And then you just shake it, or you reach up in there and you finger fuck it until you can get those bullets out of there, and they both fall. And then what you do is you reinsert a fresh magazine in, or the same magazine, depending on how you want to do it, and you fucking recock it, and you're back in the fight again, right? So that's how you correct a double feed. It'll probably show us some pictures of things. Yeah, so correcting a double feed. The next thing is correcting a stovepipe. A stovepipe is when you have brass physically. I forgot you can't open this little port thing on the weapon when there's a magazine in there. A stovepipe is when the weapon looks like this. You have shot the bullet and it has started extracting, but the bolt carrier has caught it, or something has happened and the brass is sticking out of the gun like this. What you do in this sort of situation is, one, you drop the magazine, boom, magazine out of the weapon. You pull the charging handle to the rear, and you just fucking swipe that bad boy out of there, or you physically pick it up or whatever. Or when you pull the charging handle to the rear, most often the bullet will just, like, fall out and jiggle to the ground, and it'll fix itself. So double feed, first thing you do, well, the first thing you do in all of these situations is you look at the gun to try and figure out what the problem is. But pretty much always, like, if you see a problem and it requires removing the magazine, first thing you do is remove the magazine. So pull the magazine out, fix the fucking problem, finger fuck it, do whatever you need to do, put the magazine back in, recharge the weapon, back in the fight, ready to rock and roll, ready to go. So that's double feed, that's a stovepipe. Those are the most common ones. And then sometimes, when you're shooting, there will just be, like, the round will fail to go all the way into the chamber, and so when you pull the trigger, nothing fucking happens. So if you pull the trigger and nothing fucking happens, and you look at the gun and there's no double feed and there's no stovepipe, then you're like, oh, well, I don't know what the problem is, so I'm just gonna do the super duper basic tap rack bang, like I was teaching you guys in the pistol course last time, where you tap the magazine, make sure that it's seated all the way in the weapon, right? Because sometimes the magazine will be like that, it's not seated all the way in. So you tap the magazine, so that way you can tell that it's all the way in. You see this little line right here? This little line shows you that the magazine is all the way seated. So sometimes the magazine will not be all the way in. So you tap the magazine in, you rack it back to the rear, and then bang, 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 ready to shoot. So the most common thing to do when you look at the gun and you don't notice any sort of problem is just, oh, fucking tap, rack, bang, fucking tap, rack, bang. So that is the number one corrective action, from terms of, like, what's the most common thing you're going to need to do. It's just like, oh, fucking smack it, rack it, bang it, you know? And then the other things that I was describing to you are the less common ones, is double feed or stovepipe. Occasionally, you'll get bullets in places you didn't even know they could get inside this gun. And you'll just be like, huh, what the fuck is that? First thing to do is make the weapon safe. We take the magazine out, we pull the charging handle to the rear, and then we try and unfuck the situation, whatever it might be. So those are your most common corrective actions. It basically all centers around make the weapon safe, fix the problem, put the weapon back in the fight. Those are the three basic steps. 1, safety. 2, fix the problem. 3, back in the fight. Bam, balam. And let's take a look and see what I have forgotten. All right. Oh, bolt is locked to the rear. Okay. Well, so that one is you fucking send the bolt home. That's pretty simple. Basically, if you skip a step, then just do the step. Aha, here's a picture of the double feed. So this is what I was describing to you guys earlier, is you've got a bullet already in the chamber and another bullet trying to get into the chamber. When that happens, you just pull the bolt to the rear, drop the magazine, finger fuck it, get the bullets out of each other's way, and then get right back to it. All right, let's see what's next. Brass above bolt. This is super duper common. I've never seen this. I was on a range for 2 years and I observed over 20,000 shooters sending something around like 20 million or 2 million or something like that rounds down range. I have never once seen brass above bolt. If that happens, then you're pretty fucking good. You're pretty fucking lucky or unlucky, however you want to say it. But the correct way to fix this problem is you take the magazine out of the weapon, you make the weapon safe, and then most often if the brass is stuck above the bolt, then you're going to have to like do some real fucking hard prying on that charging handle in order to get that brass out. One of the things that you could do is you just pry real fucking hard, or you grab a hold of the charging handle and you take the weapon and you slam it down on the ground in such a way that your hand keeps traveling and you automatically charge the weapon, and that causes it to all unstick. So you basically just like forcing it out by doing like a slamming action. It's there's a different description of it, but I can't remember. But you could do that, and that would get it unstuck and get it fixed. But I have never once seen a brass above the bolt. So there you guys go. Ooh, the other thing that they're talking about: an audible pop, a reduced recoil, or black smoke. These are indicators of a round that has not fully gone off. So on a bullet, we're going to pretend that this is a bullet, right? You've got your projectile on the front, you've got your case, and then in the back you have a primer. So we're gonna presume that the middle of this, or the middle hole of this Nerf dart, is a primer. So on a weapon, or in a bullet factory, occasionally they'll have a problem where they make a bullet but they forget to put gunpowder inside, in which case it's just the primer. The primer is not enough explosive power to make the bullet go all the way down the barrel by itself. The bullet will go like a little bit of the way down the barrel and then it will stop. When an audible pop, reduced recoil, or black smoke is observed or heard or felt, then that's an indicator that your bullet didn't have any gunpowder inside of it, and it just sent, or your bullet assembly didn't have any black powder or gunpowder inside of it, and it just sent the round down the barrel about halfway, or something like that. When you experience reduced recoil, when you hear an audible pop, like a normal gun going off will go bang, and it'll be nice and loud, and you'll know like what a gun sounds like. If you just hear like a pop or a fizzle or whatever the hell, or you see like smoke kind of like roll out of the side, that's an indicator of a we call them squib rounds, or a false round. I've never seen one happen, but they can be really dangerous because if you don't notice it, like generally when an audible pop or reduced recoil happens, it's not what because it doesn't send the bullet all the way down the barrel. There's nothing that cycles the weapon, so you go and you fire and it goes and you can't fire again. You physically can't do it. Because there wasn't enough gas pressure to cause the cycle of operations to happen, to extract the round and to feed the next one in and do all that other stuff. So odds are you're gonna shoot it, and then you'll feel that reduced recoil because there's no full explosion in there. So it doesn't, instead of it going like this, it just goes like that or something. So you feel that reduced recoil, the weapon doesn't cycle, and something fucky's going on. In the event of that happening, which again is super rare, I've seen like millions and millions of rounds fired, and I've never once seen one happen. What you do is you basically just stop shooting. You take the magazine out of the gun. You make the gun completely safe. You put it in condition 4, right? So empty magazine, empty chamber. And then you break the weapon down in half by pulling out those retainer pins. You fold the weapon in half. You take the bolt carrier out. You take the T handle out, and you physically look down the barrel to make sure that nothing is stuck in the barrel. If you cannot see all the way through the barrel, if it is black, if you can't like see daylight through the other end of the paper towel tube, then that's an indicator that something's jammed in the barrel. In which case, you take like your metal rods and you physically shove it down the barrel to get that piece of lead out of there. Because if you go to fire another round, then your bullet's not going to have anywhere to go, and so the gun will explode. So it doesn't explode like crazy with a small arms weapon of like 5.56 or something. But if you're shooting like 7.62 or 50 cal, then the weapon can like literally kill you with the explosion. So like when you've got normally when you're firing a weapon system, it turns a piece of metal into a rocket, right? But if there's nowhere for that rocket to go because there's another rocket blocking the way, then the whole thing just like all that explosive pressure has to go somewhere, and so it will blow the barrel of the gun apart and send shrapnel everywhere. Again, I've never once seen a squib round or an audible pop or heard a reduced recoil. Never once in my entire life of firing. It does happen. So just like if you feel something funky, best thing to do is just double check and make sure. So all you got to do is make the weapon safe, break it down in half, and then look down the barrel to make sure that everything is clear, right? And then if it turns out to be nothing, then hey, it turns out to be nothing. And false alarms are way better than an emergency situation. So if you feel a reduced recoil, you hear an audible pop, or you see like black smoke coming out of the weapon, unless it's black powder rifle, then it's like, oh, black smoke, duh. But like if you see any of those three indicators, then that's a sign that you need to double check. So that's all I got for that. Next up, we got weapons carries. Oh boy. So weapons carries provide an effective way to handle the surface rifle while remaining alert to enemy engagement. So this is these aren't really relevant, but I'll teach them to you anyways. This is a controlled carry. So controlled carry is you've got the weapon and it's pointed at the dirt, right? This is a controlled carry, or this is a controlled carry. You're controlled and you're pointing at the ground, right? Next is tactical. Remember tactical because it's tactical galactical. Tactical is pointed up in the air. You're ready to go to the ready carry, but tactical is galactical. So like you can walk around like this for a long time. A lot of pictures you see from Vietnam, they're walking around like this. They're ready to roll. This is a tactical galactical. And note the straight trigger finger that he's got. The tactical carry. Next is the alert carry. Alert is alert to the dirt. So this is alert. This is tactical. Tactical galactical. Alert to the dirt. And then the other one is the ready carry. So this is called the ready because you're fucking ready to shoot. So you've got tactical, you've got alert, and then you've got ready, right? So you can't hold this position for like 20 minutes. This is not a comfortable position to walk around in, right? This is kind of comfortable. This is kind of comfortable. But this is not good for long range stuff. So just some things to keep in mind. Weapons transports, you've got fucking crossbody muzzle up on your back. You've got strong side sling arms, which is just like, you got your weapon on one-handed, and then you've got like strong side sling arms with the weapon down, just like this. So, you'd use them in different scenarios. One thing to keep in mind, if you're carrying your gun around on your back, if you bend over, congratulations, now that gun is horizontal and is pointing at things. So just keep that in mind whenever you have a weapon, right? You want to be very mindful of the muzzle of your weapon and where it's pointed whenever you transition your weapon from up to down or down to up, right? Because me doing this, right, it crosses the horizon at some point. When the gun's pointed like this, fucking big sky, little bullet, things are safe. When I'm doing this, fucking bullet's gonna go right into the ground if I press the trigger accidentally. But when I'm doing this, there's probably somebody over there somewhere, wherever that might be. Whenever you're holding a weapon horizontally, you need to be very, very careful and very, very attentive to what direction that the muzzle is pointing. So whenever you're transitioning from muzzle up to muzzle down or muzzle down to muzzle up, you just need to be aware of the horizon level. So there's some stuff for you guys. There's some more back carries. There's some transfers. So he is literally like, hey, look at this gun. It's nice and clear and clean. And this guy's like, haha, that gun is nice and clear. I will take it from you. Clearing the barrel. So this is an impact barrel. Sometimes when you turn in your weapons at the armory, which is where weapons live when you're not carrying them, before you give it to the armorer, he wants to see the weapon's clear. So, if you're on duty and you have a loaded weapon, then you need to clear it before you hand it to the armorer, because that's the correct thing to do. So that's what that little barrel thing is for. So next up, fundamentals of marksmanship. Oh boy. So the fundamentals of marksmanship are aiming and trigger control. These techniques provide the foundation for all marksmanship principles and skills. For rifle fire to be effective, it must be accurate. A rifleman who merely sprays shots in the vicinity of the enemy produces little effect. The fundamentals of precision marksmanship, when applied correctly, form the basis for delivering accurate fire on enemy threats. These skills must be developed so that they are applied instinctively. So basically, what that means is you just drill until it becomes muscle memory, right? So when I go like this, like I've done this so many fucking times that it's natural for me to do it. It is muscle memory at this point. It's like when you shoot 10,000 free throws, you're pretty good at shooting free throws because you've drilled in all the positive habits. So when you're practicing weapon systems and the fundamentals of marksmanship, you need to do it so much that it becomes second nature. So basically, you train the stupid away is one way to put it. So first thing we're going to cover is sight alignment and sight picture. So these are your aiming reticles for your optic. This is if you are using a tube to shoot, like a scope. And then if you're not, oh, actually, fuck, we got to rewind a little bit. So we have to determine what your dominant eye is. So, ladies and germs, I've got a thing for you guys to do at home right now. So go ahead and get about I don't know 6 to 8 feet away from the thing that you want to look at. Pick one object on the wall. It could be me. It could be a spider. It could be whatever. And what you got to do is you take your hands and you form a little tiny triangle, right? And you form a little tiny triangle that's about the size of a quarter or something like that, and then you hold it all the way out here, and then you look at the thing that you want to look at. So right now you guys can see my eyeball through my tiny little corner. You can only see one eyeball. What that does is that tells you what is your dominant eye. So when you're looking at something far away and you go like this and you make your little triangle and you look at that object, you will notice there's actually two little holes, one for your left eye, one for your right eye. One of your eyes is going to be the dominant eye. So I happen to be left eye dominant. So when I go like this to the camera, right, I can see the camera with my left eye. If I do this and then I switch to the other eye, there it is. Bam, then that's my right eye. So you want to make a hole that's small enough that you can only see the item that you're looking at through one of your eyeballs. As you can see, I'm switching from left to right and from right to left. So you make that whatever eye with both eyes open, when you make this tiny little circle, when you're focusing on an object, whichever eye is the eye that you're using to see the object, that is your brain's dominant eye. So I happen to be left eye dominant, but I prefer to shoot right-handed. So what that means is I use my body's natural wrong eye in order to shoot. So I have to physically train my brain to look out of my right eye. If you have never shot before and you're left eye dominant, then it's better for you to learn how to shoot left-handed than it is to learn how to shoot right-handed, right? Because then your brain has to do less work. So you want to figure out what your dominant eye is, and then you would generally train to shoot with that eye more than you would train to like shoot the way that your body prefers to shoot. So it's better to start from scratch with whichever eye is your better eye. I trained too much with my right side before learning that my left eye was dominant, and so like it's just this weird scenario in life where I have to physically overcome my incorrect eyeball usage whenever I'm doing rifle marksmanship. You see that my right eye is aligned over the sights instead of my left eye. Like this would be the incorrect way to do it, but that's the way that my body would naturally want. This is the correct way to shoot when you're right-handed, and this is the right way to shoot when you are left-handed. So you don't want to be doing the cross-eyed crap over your optics when you're shooting. It makes a little bit less difference with pistol, right? Because if you have a pistol, I can presuming that my thumb are the sights, I can use my sights on my right eye, or I can move my head over and use my left eye, right? So I can decide to use either eye by just simply shifting my head side to side. But that's only with a pistol. With a rifle, because everything's so fucking close to your face, you can't really do that cross eye bullshit. So anyways, that's how you figure out which eye is your dominant eye, and that's how you determine if you're going to be a left-handed shooter or a right-handed shooter. So there you go. What is next? So dominant eye, close targeting engagements, long range engagements. I suppose that's moderately important. So when you're engaging a target that's close to you, and you can define close however you want, 50 meters, 25 meters, whatever the hell. The closer a target is to you, the more important speed is and the less important accuracy is. You want to be accurate enough to be effective, but more important than accuracy is speed. So when the target is 2 feet away from me, I'm not worried about getting a nice, pretty sight picture and getting my eyes all aligned and really like honing down the fundamentals. It's like, nope, bam, 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 bam. You know, you shoot quickly. And then the farther a target away is, the more I take my time. I get into a nice like shooting position. I get nice and stable. You take your nice solid breath, and you wait for the sights to line up just perfectly, and then for that perfect moment, and then bam, you pull the trigger and you fire. Further away a target is, the more important accuracy and precision is. The closer a target, the more important speed and reaction time. So there you go. Stock weld. Stock weld is the next thing that we're going to cover. So, things that affect your sight picture. You want to make sure that every time you marry your cheek to the weapon, let's see if I can do a good. This is, you guys can see, I'm kind of squishing my face into the buttstock of the weapon here, right? So you want to make sure that every time you do this the same. So it takes a little bit of practice, but as you guys can see, this dude right here he is welding his face onto the stock. He is pressing his cheek onto the stock in such a way that his eyeball is aligned perfectly with the optic, and it is a set distance away from the optic. So the ideal distance for every optic is different, but for that one that he's using, you want about 4 fingers, which is about 2 inches. So you want your eyeball to be about 2 inches away from your optic, right? So this guy's got it just perfect, and he's got his cheek weld in place, and it's consistent. The thing you want to practice here is you want to do the same thing every time. You want to get your cheek on the exact same spot on that rifle every single time, so that way you can have consistent results and you can know what you're doing. Let's see what is next. So that is proper cheek weld. So eye relief is the thing that I was talking to you about. Eye relief is the distance between your eyeball and the in the scope. Some scopes you need a lot of eye relief. You need like 12 inches. Some scopes you need less eye relief, and it needs to be like right up close to your eye. It's just, you want to make sure that you have the correct amount of eye relief. If the optic is not aligned correctly, you're going to get what's called scope shadow. So as you can see down here, this is an incorrectly aligned optic. So basically, he's looking down the tube, but he's not looking down it from a direct center point. His eye is off to the side, or it's too low, or it's too high, right? So if your eye is not in the dead center of the tube, then you're going to get what's called scope shadow. And that will let you know that like your shots are going to be off. So this only applies to optics. It doesn't apply to iron sights. You don't get scope shadow on iron sights because you're not using a scope. The only thing you would get on iron sights is the iron sights would simply not, or actually it would look like this to you guys, because you would have, this is your rear sight and this is your front sight right here. So if you have bad sight alignment with iron sights, it'll look like this, you know. And if you have bad alignment with an optic, it would look like that crescent moon that they've got up there. So this is what good iron sight alignment is. You've got the front side post direct in the center, horizontally and vertically inside of the optic. And yeah, and that's what. So this is sight alignment. This is where your two sights are aligned with your eyeball. So you've got 3 things that are in line. You've got your eyeball, the rear sight, and then the front sight. Or if you're doing it like this on the target, right? You've got your eyeball, your rear sight, and your front sight over here, and those are all in one straight line. There's no wiggles and curves in between any of it. That's good sight alignment. Good sight picture is when you have sight alignment, which is eyeball, rear sight, front sight, and then target way off in the distance. So if I'm aiming at the camera, right, this is good sight alignment and good sight picture. This is good sight alignment. This is good sight picture. Sight alignment, sight picture. Sight alignment is just my relationship to the weapon. Sight picture is my relationship to the weapon to the target. So if you have all 3 things, then you're ready to rock and roll in all respects. Here's some examples of good sight picture. So here he's just shooting a regular dude. Here he's shooting a dude in the grass. Here he's shooting a dude behind a fence. That's fucking Wilson from what's that? Is it Home Improvement or something? That dude that always like peers above the fence. I'm pretty sure that's Home Improvement. And then there's a dude hiding inside of a tree. So yeah, this is good sight picture. And then correct sight picture with a partially exposed target using iron sights. Some examples of things that go wrong when you use bad sight alignment and sight picture. So this is correct sight alignment with good sight picture. This is good sight alignment with bad sight picture. So his rear sight and his front sight have a good marriage right here. but he's not looking at the target. And this is, he's got the rear sight fucked up with the front sight. The front sight is on the target, but the rear sight is off to the side. So that will cause his shot to go off in a different direction. So there you go. Close target, far away target, good stock weld, proper eye relief with iron sights. They flipped and flopped these two pictures here. So this is what close eye relief would look like, and this is what far away eye relief would look like. So if you're too far away from your if you're too far away from your rear sight, then everything will look super magnified. And if you're too close to your rear iron sight, then your front sight will look nice and small. So they flipped and flopped these two pictures on this diagram, but that's something to think about. Trigger control. Trigger control is important. You want to make sure you have a smooth, steady squeeze, so that way you're not like jerking the trigger and jerking the weapon around. If you got bad trigger control, then your weapon will go like this every time you pull the trigger, right? And we don't want that to happen. So good trigger control, it should surprise you. It should be a slow, steady squeeze. You should be surprised every time the weapon fires. You don't want to anticipate the shot and do this like some people do every time they're shooting, right? You want to just let the weapon fire and surprise you. Just provide good resistance, and that's all that there is to it. Slow, steady squeeze, right? Imagine that you've got, like, I don't know, a fucking something, and you're pinching it, you're slowly squeezing. Grip is important. You want to make sure that you have a high, firm pistol grip, right? You don't want to be grabbing the grip down here. You don't want to be loosey floppy doppy, nice and fucking high and tight up in there, ready to rock and roll. None of this crap, none of this loosiness, right? You don't want to be doing that number. You want to be up there, nice and high, nice and tight, nice and controlled. This weapon system is yours. So if you have a loose grip on it, then you're going to have loose results. Two types of trigger control. We've got uninterrupted trigger control, which is where you go bang, and it happens. And then interrupted trigger control, which is like where you're pulling, oh, and then something happens, and it's like, oh fuck, I'm off target, but I've still pulled a little bit. So I'm waiting. Okay, I'm back on target. I continue pulling. Bang, weapon fires. So interrupted trigger control, uninterrupted trigger control. Uninterrupted is when your weapon is aligned with your target the entire time you're pulling the trigger, and then the shot goes off. Interrupted is you're aligned, you're pulling. Oh shit, something bad happened. You stop pulling, get back on sight, and then you continue pulling. Here's a better example, right? So uninterrupted trigger control, I'm on target, bang, shot fires, right? Interrupted trigger control, pull. Uh-oh, something changes. I pause, get back to baseline, continue pulling, bang, shot fires. Basically, you want to interrupt your trigger control anytime something happens, like if something walks in front of your target that you don't want to shoot, or if like the wind blows your target sideways and you have to adjust, right? That's when you would want to use interrupted and uninterrupted. Let's see, close range engagements, trigger control is quick and instant, and then mid to long range is when trigger control is more appropriate for accuracy. So for close range, it's all about speed, right? And for long range, it's all about like slow and steady, getting it done right, getting it done consistent. Next up, we got firing positions. So you've got standing, sitting, kneeling, and prone, right? So, and also supported. So this is, I guess I can bust out the, here we go. We're going to have to extend a Rooney. There we go. All right. Oh, this is obnoxious. I have to look down there to see myself, but the camera's up here. So standing, you've got your feet shoulder width apart. You face the target. This is an isosceles standing position. So I'm facing the target with my feet, with my hips, and with my shoulders. I'm squared off with the target. This is for close target acquisition stuff. This is basically anything under 100 meters. So you're going to be wanting to point and shoot just like that when you're standing. If it's further than 100 meters, then you want to face sideways, because then you're going to be doing more supported shooting. It's going to be a lot like you really wouldn't want to be standing to shoot anything from more than 100 yards away, but like turning and facing sideways allows you to get a more stable position, and you can hold this position a lot longer than you can hold this position. So those are some considerations for standing. Let's see what's next. Man, I gotta stop moving this webcam around because this is gonna bother me. I'm just gonna explain from the seated position. That'll probably be better anyways. They've got diagrams. Okay. Da, 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 da. So this dude is actually using the wall as a support or as a half-ass support. One of the things that you can do when you're using an item for support is you put your hand on it, right, and you grab it, and then you rest your gun on your hand, or you like half grab the gun and you half grab the thing that you're like resting on. So presuming that oh, actually, here we go. I got a coffee cup, right? So I've got a coffee cup. I grab the coffee cup and I've also got the gun, right? So I've got I'm holding onto the weapon and I'm holding onto the coffee cup. Yep. So that's a supported position. You'd use the grip pod. You definitely want to use supported stuff whenever you have the opportunity to. So like if this is sitting here, you definitely want to support the gun on it and use that instead of like sitting here and using your muscles, because your muscles are going to get tired and you're going to do worse and worse shooting the more tired you get. So anytime you have something, you want to use it. Next up, you want to make sure that the rifle is squarely placed inside the butt of your shoulder. So there's like a little pocket right here underneath your clavicle, in between your deltoid and your pectoral, right? So in that area is the golden pocket for a rifle to sit. Some people like to put the rifle right there. Some people like to put it further out here. The best spot, generally speaking, is in the pocket between your shoulder and your chest. So that's the best place to put the rifle, because that puts it directly underneath your eyeball to get you good sight alignment and sight picture and stuff. So you want to make sure that you've got the buttstock in the pocket of your shoulder. You want to make sure you've got that good high firm pistol grip. You want to make sure that your elbows are down, you're nice and fucking tight, right? Some people shoot like this. That's not a good way to do it, because like you're flexing this muscle for the duration of your shooting. And so this is going to get more and more tired as time goes on, and you don't have any stability with this out here, right? So your hand is providing stability to the weapon, right? So if you're out here like this, there's no stability. But if you tuck it into your side, right? If you tuck your arm into your side, now you have stability down here. It's basically like your arm is almost like a little kicker stand for your weapon system. You can do this shit all day, right? Can't do this shit all day. You can totally do this shit all day. And you're a smaller, lower profile target than when you're like this. When you're like this, it's like, haha, now you've got all this extra stuff you can shoot out there. But when it's like this, it's like, oh, nice and small target profile. That was one of the things that me and Battle Hardened Sniper were talking about in the Telegram. So shout out to you, Sniper, if you're listening, broski. Fucking love you, dude. All right. Let's see what else we got. All right, so rifle in the butt of the shoulder, grip of the firing hand. Okay, I guess I got to read these. A firm grip must be established on the pistol grip to ensure rearward pressure applied to keep the service rifle butt in the shoulder. So what that means is you're basically got to be like pulling that bitch in, because if you're like pushing it out, then when the weapon fires and recoils, it's gonna do unpredictable shit. It's gonna flop all over the place. If you got it nice and firm, then it's easy to control and it's good to go. Firing side elbow. Firing side elbow should be positioned naturally to provide balance, position, and create a pocket in the shoulder for the service rifle butt. Muscular tension may be increased in the firing arm to hold the service rifle butt in the shoulder due to rearward pressure from the grip. The placement of the elbow should remain consistent from shot to shot, ensuring that the resistance to recoil remains constant. So, I'm going to disagree with the book, and I'm going to say that you need to put your elbow down. That's my preference. That's what I think gives you the most stability. This gives you non-stability, and it makes you look like a silly goose that doesn't know what you're doing. Basically, any serious shooter shoots with their elbow tucked in because it gives you more stability. So there you go. Stock weld. The stock weld is the cheek against the stock. So you're welding your cheek to the stock. So you've got that high firm pistol grip. You've got the butt of the weapon in the pocket of the shoulder. You got that good cheek weld. You want to make sure that you've got your breathing under control. So natural respiratory pause is the best time to shoot when you are shooting long range or you're shooting for accuracy. If you're shooting close range, then it doesn't fucking matter where you're breathing. You just need to remember to breathe and not get like caught up holding your breath or anything because you pass out. But if you're shooting long range, then what you'll notice in your normal breathing pattern is that you breathe in, breathe out, pause, breathe in, breathe out, pause. That natural respiratory pause. So da 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 da. That da 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 part is when you want to be taking your shot if you're doing long range, like high accuracy shooting. So You'll notice when you're shooting, I'm exaggerating it a little bit, but when you breathe in, your muzzle tends to go up. And when you breathe out, it goes back down to its resting place. So if you have the opportunity to shoot and you can control your shooting and you can control when you want to shoot, the best time to shoot, the most consistent result is going to be kabam, right? Because that's a consistent place. If you shoot, if you want to do it like bang, you have to hold your breath for longer to make sure that you get that perfect shot. It's easier to hold on an exhale than it is to hold on an inhale. So I always recommend that people shoot during the natural respiratory pause. And then these two paragraphs kind of describe that. Muscular control is the next thing that you want to pay attention to. So muscular control while shooting is all about the art of like applying as little amount of muscular tension as possible over top of the baseline of muscular control. So if I'm at like zero muscular control, the fucking gun's gone and on the ground. And if I'm at like 100% muscular control, like I can't hold this position for very long because I'm flexing fucking everything, right? You want to be somewhere in between those two. You want to be at like the minimum amount of muscular control necessary to get good results every single time without overburdening and overtaxing your body. So when it comes to muscular control, you basically want to be in as comfortable a position as possible that you can hold for the longest period of time if you're doing long range accurate shooting. If you're doing close range target acquisition, then you want fucking, like quick movements and quick capabilities. So more tension for shorter range, less tension for longer range, adapting in between. The whole point of the thing is not to tire yourself out unnecessarily before the end of the conflict or whatever. So just some things to consider and some things to keep in mind. Elements of a firing position when using a loop sling. We're not worried about that. Oh, bone support. Actually, it's good that it brought up bone support. So when you are in a position with your weapon system, I'm going to assume we're going to pretend that I'm on the ground, right? And I'm assuming a sitting position, right? What I'm doing is I'm trying to make sure that I've got bone on bone contact, or that I have like bone on bone contact. So I want to basically use my body's skeletal structure to make sure that I am supporting the weight of this weapon. Okay. So I'm not putting my muscles on my muscles, because then I have to like hold them tense and everything. I'm putting my bones on my bones. I'm putting my elbows on my knees. And what that does is that allows me to hold this position for a real long fucking time, because I don't have to flex my muscles in order to keep a nice steady position. If I've got like muscle on bone, then it's like it's squishy and it can move around and stuff. But if I've got bone on bone, then it's fucking nice and rock fucking solid. So when I fire and it recoils, it resets right back to the same place that it was shooting. So in the sitting position, let's see if I can do a kneeling position. Oh, I can. Oh, a kneeling position on my squiggly chair, right? So I would want to put my elbow on my knee or something like that, right? For a kneeling position, and then in the standing position, you don't have bone on bone. And then when you're laying like prone on the ground, like you're laying on the ground. So it really only applies to the sitting and the kneeling. You want to make sure that you have good bone support. You don't want to have muscular support, right? Because muscles require energy for us to maintain a position. If you have bone on bone support, then it's like, this doesn't cost me anything to hold this shooting position. So there you go. Muscular relaxation. I sort of kind of described that earlier, but you don't want to be basically flexing too much. Next up, we've got the natural point of aim. So natural point of aim is the thing that you want to be adjusting when you're at long-term like target acquisition. Natural point of aim is like when I relax, when I like take my deep breath and I'm in my good shooting position, wherever my gun like falls naturally, that is my natural point of aim. When you're shooting, you don't want to fight your natural point of aim. You want to adjust yourself so that way your natural point of aim falls on the target, right? You don't want to like if my natural point of aim is here and I'm twisting my body, or I'm making myself uncomfortable to shoot a different spot, then I'm not gonna have as much longevity to be able to hit that target over and over again. If it's so like here's an example. I'm pointing this way, but then if I'm shooting something over here, you can see that my body is twisted and contorted and it wants to naturally go back like this. When I fire the weapon, there's going to be a recoil, and I'm going to move around. I'm going to adjust a little bit. When you fire the weapon, your body will naturally go back to the natural point of aim, to the relaxed place. So if you can engineer your natural point of aim to be on the target while you're shooting it, then you're gonna shoot, go back, and you'll land right in the same fucking spot every single time, right? So I shoot my target, right? There's the recoil, and I land right back where I'm like ready and point. So like bang, I shoot, fucking natural point of aim every single fucking time. I'm not even I'm not even fucking trying. That's hilarious. That it lines up straight with the camera. That's fucking great. But anyways, with natural point of aim, you're going to be shoot, where was I? When you fire the weapon, you end up right back on target, right? And that's very important. You don't want to be in an unnatural point of aim spot. You fire the weapon, the recoil throws you off from where you would be shooting, and you land in your natural point of aim, and then you have to adjust again. You fire and you land, and then you adjust. Fire, land, adjust. You want to set it up to where you're naturally aiming at the thing that you want to shoot every single time. The less you have to think, the less adjustment you have to make, the better off your marksmanship is going to be from a fundamental standpoint. All right. Let's see. Oh, and a way that you can check your natural point of aim is you get in your good shooting position, and without shooting, you close your eyes, you breathe in, you breathe out, and then you open your eyes again. And then you check and see if you're in the same spot. If you're in the same spot, that's your natural point of aim. If you're in a different spot, that means that's your natural point of aim. Then you close your eyes, breathe in and out again, open your eyes again. You basically just want to take yourself off target and put yourself back on target by closing and opening your eyes, and that's how you determine whether or not you've got a good natural point of aim set up. So there you go. So we have covered the sitting, the kneeling, the standing, and I've sort of kind of covered prone, but not really. I guess I could get down on the fucking ground for you guys. There we go. Fuck it. Here we go. Prone shooting positions with Will. So I don't even know if this Connex is big enough for me to get into a good prone position. But the good fundamentals of a prone position are you want to have. There we go. Can you see? Okay. Not really. Fuck it. You want to have both elbows on the ground. You want to have your hips on the ground. And you want to have your elbows placed in such a way that your head falls naturally on the weapon system where it lines up with the sights. So this is how you get in a good prone position. You're using your elbows. If you want to use the magazine of the weapon, you can do that. And there's a couple different of ways to do the prone position, but I don't think it really requires me to explain a shit ton of that to you guys. So you get the idea. And my camera's not set up for doing prone anyways. So we're just going to skip past it. You basically lie down and you support the weapon in the best way possible. So there you go. There's fucking prone for you. Speaking of prone, I have not taken a look at questions or comments or anything. Holy shit, there's been a couple people that have hopped on in here. Let's do a fucking quick round of chat shoutouts because we're at the 2-hour mark for the show. Where's my chat shoutouts? Fucking diagram. That's not good. Did it fall behind the computer? It did. Look at that. Ladies and germs, it's time for chat motherfucking shoutouts. Shout out to all you guys in the comments who are watching and learning and hanging out and having fun and having a good time. Looks like, first and foremost, we have been, man, I really hate how YouTube is doing this with the chats. We've been joined by Daniel Cha, 5969, FCLCUEE. I don't know what that means, but yep, there you go. We've also got Mr. Michael Armstrong, 8506. Are you a Marine? Yes, sir, I am a Marine. I was in the Marine Corps active duty from 2011 to 2019. I'm one of those fucking red patch dudes. I don't know if you can see the tattoo, but I've got the red patch tattoos on my calves. That's my only motivator tattoo that I got. Yeah, I was in the Marine Corps from 2011 to 2019. I did 8 years all over at Camp Lejeune, part of CLB2, CLR.27, CLB22, MWSS-272, and Weapons Training Battalion. And I think that's it. Yeah, those are my units. I deployed with MWSS-272 and CLB22 on the 22nd MEU in 2014 and 2016. And then I was with 19 for a little bit for a short period of time with the Artillery Battalion. But yeah, good to see you, fellow Marine, Semper Fidelis. good sir. And yeah. And yeah, Hexagon Lost in Asia. Yes, I am a Marine. Good to see you, Hexagon Lost in Asia. Good to see you, broski. Shout out to fellow vets in the chats. We've got Mr. Red Ray 57. This is a good refresher. Yes, absolutely. I think this is Brightlight. What's up, Brightlight? For some fucking reason, YouTube decided to put in people's @ signs instead of what their names are. So I don't really know why it's doing that, but shout out to you, Mr. Brightlight. Good to see you, broski. Next up, we've got Funkmaster Hex. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Good evening to you, Mr. Funkmaster Hex. The Trailer Park Boys, Julian of the Hexico and Pulse Chain Space. Good to see you, bro. Next up, we've got Mr. M Rock Jockey. Good shit, man. Thanks, bro. I'm glad you guys appreciate the show. We've also got Mr. Hex Glenn. Good evening. Mr. Pulse Jitsu with Fast Abdul. Ooh, a book with pictures. Yes, this is indeed a book with pictures. And then we've got Crypto Motherfucking Boogie, fellow Marine, Simplified Broski. What's up, monkeys? Love the fundamentals of marksmanship. Abso-fucking-lutely, bro. Good to see you here with us. Shout out to Boogie. There's a bunch of Marines in Hexaco. Love to see it. We got vets. We've got myself. We've got Boogie. Oh man. We got RG3 is another Marine. We've got Dr. Hexologist. He's a Marine as well. There's a shit ton of military dudes. Shout out to all the military dudes in the Hexaco and in the crypto space in general. Shout out to all our veteran baby dolls out there. All right, and that catches us up with chat shoutouts. Let's see what else we've got. Oh, this guy is demonstrating how to get into a prone position and how to get up from a prone position. Basically, you just get down in the prone as fast as you can if it's an emergency. So like you jump or you dolphin slide or you do whatever the hell the kids call it these days. But like if you're running, you just basically like pretend trip over yourself and you just kind of like glide into and then boom, fucking ready to rock and roll. That's how you get into a prone quickly. Otherwise, you just do it comfortably. That's what a good prone position looks like with straight leg. There's also prone with the crooked leg, the cocked leg position, which is useful for like lateral stability and stuff. It also helps you get up and down faster in the cock leg position. So this gives you more stability. This gives you speed. There's also one other one. Oh yeah, the straight leg prone, which is like that's if you want to present like a small target to whatever it is that you're shooting. Yep, there you go. Prone position behind cover. So that's pretty clever. Then you've got the sitting, the kneeling, and the standing. Sitting is pretty straightforward. You want to do like crisscross applesauce, and you can either do it with your feet way out in front. You can do it like I was doing in the chair with like the feet crossed in and closed up, nice and tight. There's also some people who do. Let me see if I can demonstrate this well. There's also some people who do a sitting position like this with the open leg, and they put their elbows in their knees like this. I don't recommend it because like your knees are floppy this way. It's much better to do a sitting position like this, crisscross applesauce. So that's my 2 cents for the folks at home. But yeah, lots and lots of sitting positions and things. Let's see what's next. We've described that. There is in the low sitting position. More sitting position. Oh, there we go. The spread leg sitting position. More sitting with cover. He's using the tree as a support. That's a smart thing to do. Kneeling's pretty self-explanatory. You just fucking, I guess you've got several types of kneeling. You've got high kneel, you've got low kneel. So for kneeling, right, if I am a right-handed shooter, which I am, then I would be kneeling with my left knee forward, right? So this is a high kneel because I'm like my body's like upright. This is another version of the high kneel. If you want to just present a slightly lower target. Another thing you can do is you can lean back. I'm not incredibly flexible, but you can sit down on your heel with your butt, and that's like a medium kneel. And then the other thing is you can tilt your ankle sideways, like on the. How would I show it on the camera? There we go. You would tilt your leg sideways, and you lay it flat on the ground, and you can sit on your foot that way. That's the other version of the low kneeling, but I don't really do that one very often. If you're kneeling, it's just fast and easy to get into a kneeling position. If you want to be shooting accurately, you want to get in the prone. If you want to have high movement, you shoot from standing. So the kneeling is the halfway point in between the prone and the standing. So there you go. Yeah, high kneeling, 2 knee kneeling, I think that's ridiculous. And then medium, and then low kneeling. There you see he's got his foot flat on the ground. I'm not flexible enough to do that. I got to get back into doing yoga or something. But there you go. Kneeling with support, standing position. So one of the important things about shooting from the standing. So this is actually something that I think we should cover. So from the standing position, I'm going to aim this down a little bit more, so that way we can see the ground. When you're building a good standing position for marksmanship, the first thing you do, just like I was telling you with a pistol, is you get in a good battle stance, right? So battle stance is same as like boxing. It's like you've got your feet are about shoulder width apart. You've got your if I'm shooting with my right hand, then my left hand is going to be just a little bit in front of my right, or my left foot is going to be just a little bit in front of my right foot. My knees are going to be bent, and I'm going to be leaning ever so slightly forward. The reason that you lean ever so slightly forward is because when you fire, there's going to be an impulse to the rear. And if you're standing up straight, right? If you're standing up straight and there is a backwards force on you, then you tilt backwards, and we don't want that. So like I will show you what it would look like to a person. So like if I'm standing up straight and shooting, every time I shoot, I'm going to go like that, right? My whole body's going to rock back. But if I'm leaning forward, then every time I shoot, then I immediately come right back to this forward position. So one of the things I tell all my shooters when I'm coaching rifle is I tell them to get in that good battle stance, right? Their feet shoulder width apart, their non-dominant foot in front. You bend your knees so that way you're mobile and you're wiggly. You crouch down and you lean forward a little bit, so that way your center of gravity is forward of your is forward of your feet. Think of that like, again, like instead of being straight up and down, you want to be just leaned a little bit forward, so that way when you shoot, you fall right back into that same position, as opposed to shooting from this way. You actually like fall backwards a little bit and you topple over just a little bit when you're shooting. So you want to avoid toppling over. When you shoot, you're going to go up and then you just fall right back down. So this is like the natural point of aim for standing, is when you're leaning forwards and your center of gravity is forwards of where your hips are. So just some little tidbits and information for the standing position there. Get my camera back where it needs to be. You can see my coffee. You can see me. All my goodies on the table. All right. Oh, excuse me. All right, let's see what else we got. Oh, this is the higher accuracy. So this is like shooting long distance while standing. So if you're shooting a long ways away, you probably shouldn't be shooting while standing. But like if you need to, then like what I was saying earlier, like this is close range shooting. This is more long range shooting, right? So this, if you imagine my body and the weapon as a lever, right? Right now, the distance of the center of gravity from my body is, like about 12 inches. But if I rotate the gun like this, right, then now the center of gravity from my body is about 4 inches. So I'm able to balance this weapon like this for a lot longer holding it this way than I am holding it this way, right? This way gives me more control and more like recoil absorption, and then this way gives me more like stability, but like you can't manage the recoil as well. So like when I fire like this, like there's a lot more sway and there's a lot more everything, but I can hold this position and wait for a well-aimed shot a lot longer than I can if I'm doing this. If I'm doing this and you're shooting like this all day for long range, you're going to get tired real fucking quick, and your shots are not going to be as well placed as if you're in like a nice and relaxed, long range shooting position. So this is for long range. This is for short range. And realistically, if you're shooting long range, you shouldn't be doing it standing. You should at the very least take a knee or something like that. So that way you just have more stability. Or even better, like this guy's doing, smart cookie, fucking use a support. So he's braced against the wall. He's using the wall to hold the weapon's weight in addition to himself. What else we got? Minimizing exposure to the enemy, maximize the stability of the service rifle, provide protection from enemy observation and fire. Yeah. So there you go. Firing from the right side of cover. So presuming you're a right-handed shooter, this is what you look like to the enemy, and this is what you look like to your friends. So nice and easy, nice and small target. You've got the barrel out, so you can get the bad guys, and you're a very small target for them to shoot back at. If you're right-handed and you're shooting on the left side of cover, then you just kind of lean over a little bit, or you switch hands to shoot with the other. Like if you're right-handed but you're shooting on the left side of the street, you just switch to left-handedness, and you can make that nice small profile. Or you can just do this thing where you lean a little bit. Not very difficult to lean a little bit. So whichever is your preference. Firing over the top of cover is what it looks like. He's using his bipod as a support right here. He's using the magazine pressed into the wall right there. So those are some other things you can do. Bam, bam, balam. Firing over the top of stuff, you want to make sure that your muzzle is clear, so that way you don't just shoot the fucking dirt. Let's see. Covered all that. Oh, firing from behind a Humvee. So there you go. Firing over the front of a vehicle. Oh, firing from in the window. Look at that. He's got the bulletproof glass right there. Firing from the ground. Basically, like you take cover to take cover. Effects of weather, and what it does. So physical, and there's two considerations for weather. You've got physical and you've got psychological, right? You've got the function of the weapon, and you've got the function of the human. So the physical things to keep in mind: with cold, your weapon is not going to function as well because all the heat will shrink, and all of those tolerances that are already really tight are going to be even more tight. So the weapon's not going to want to function as well. And also, parts break a lot easier when it's cold. When you're cold, you're not as happy a camper, and same thing when you're super hot. You're not as happy a camper. You'll pass out more. With the cold, you'll like your digits will start freezing, and you won't be able to do like good manipulations of the weapon system. So these are things you have to keep in mind. Also, wind has a very real effect on ballistics. I think that there's a wind deflection of a bullet. So this shows you where the bullet's going to hit with no wind. This shows you where the bullet's going to hit with lots of wind. These are ways you can calculate wind using on a Marine Corps rifle range where they use a standardized flag, and you can do some math and shit. But anyways, the point of the thing is 5 miles an hour, you get a small little flag. You look at the sideways. 5 miles an hour is like 20-ish degrees of tilt. 40 degrees of tilt is 10 miles an hour. 60 is 50. 80 is 20. And 90 degrees is 25 mile an hour winds. So there you go. Not really super important, but actually, here's some things. So if you're looking at just stuff regular, at 5 mile an hour, wind can be detected by the presence of a slight wind or by drifting smoke. It can be felt lightly on the face and keeps tree leaves in constant motion. At 10 miles an hour, winds will start pick up dust and loose paper. At 15 miles an hour, wind causes small trees to sway, and at 20 miles an hour, wind causes large trees to sway. So those are some observation methods for wind and things. Let's see. Zeroing the service rifle. Oh, so this is the diagram that I wanted to show you guys. So there's a relationship between your optic and the ballistics of the weapons and the barrel. So this is the diagram that I made. Basically, here's your gun. Your barrel is pointed up, and your barrel is pointed in a constant direction. Now, when you fire the bullet immediately starts getting affected by gravity. But because the barrel is pointed upwards, you get a head start going up before it starts dipping back down again. If you were to take two bullets, right, you shoot one and you drop the other one identically next to the weapon, and you just drop it to the ground, both bullets would hit the ground at the exact same time, right? The bullet that you fire, presuming that you're shooting perfectly flat and horizontal with the surface of the earth, both bullets will hit the ground at the exact same time because they're both being affected by gravity at the exact same rate. It just so happens that one's going forward really fast, so it's going forward while it's falling, et cetera, down to the ground. So you have to keep this in mind with your optics. So the way that optics work is you've got different levels of distance in your optics. So you remember that the top of the optic was 100 meters, then 200, then 300, then 400, et cetera, et cetera. That is all measured by these little horizontal lines right here. and then this dotted line is the trajectory of the bullet. So when you're close to the thing that you're shooting, you have to actually aim with the further down parts inside the reticle. So if you're like 25 yards away from something, you have to actually use the 400-yard line to hit exactly where you're shooting. Up until you get to like whatever the apex is, and every gun and every type of ammo is different, but every weapon it shoots to have an apex, and then the bullet starts coming down. So most weapons are zeroed at like the 100 or the 300-yard range, so you can imagine that the apex of the round's travel is somewhere in there. But anyways, that's kind of how like the relationship between your sights and your barrel and the bullet goes. So the line of sight is, as you can see, obviously this homie is looking at his rear sight aligned with his front sight. We're going to pretend that the rear sight is up here, and rear sight and front sight, and that makes a straight line over. The bullet will go up and up and up and up, and then this is the center line of the bore of the weapon. So this is kind of how ballistics work, and this is like the point of aim, and this is the distance and things. So you just want to make sure that when you first get your weapon, that you make sure that the sights are set to where the round is impacting in the real world when you shoot it. So that is all called zeroing, and that's a whole can of worms. All right. So this talks about the math of zeroing the AR-15 specifically. So like these are distances, and this is inches up and down, and blah 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 blah. Not super interesting for you guys. The basic point is just understand what distances your rifle hits where. True zero, backup iron sights, mechanical adjustments. These are what the adjustment screws or the adjustment caps look like on your optic, whatever your optic might be. It's generally just like a little flathead screwdriver, and you just spin it, and it makes clicking noises, and that physically moves the crosshairs inside of your optic up, down, left, and right. So that way you can put your crosshairs exactly where they need to be. Bullet drop compensator. We already covered that. I think we're getting close to the end of this this learning session. We've already talked about backup iron sights. Oh, you can adjust your front sight post. You can make it go up and down. You can't make it go left and right, but you can make it go up and down. I wouldn't recommend doing it. I would recommend doing all of your adjustments from the rear sight, because you can make the rear sight go up, down, left, and right. So if you're going to make an adjustment, I would recommend just putting your front sight post in some magical place and then adjusting the rear sight as necessary. You've got your windage, which is right here, and you've got your elevation, which is down here. So elevation is up, down, windage is left and right. There we go. One of the useful things you can do is you can mark it with paint. So that way, if you accidentally like drop it and it screws out of place, then you can be like, oh, fuck. I can return it back to the painted spot, so that way I know where my starting point is. Oh, yeah, see, he's got little notches right here. So you've got your center line notch, and then you've got your left and your right notches, and he's got a little bit of paint. Yep, so you zero at 36 yards, and that is the same thing as the 300 yards using the trajectory of the bullet. Zeroing process. There was one more thing. Oh, offsetting for windage. So if the wind is blowing, then you have to aim somewhere else. So that way, when you shoot the bullet, the wind pushes the bullet into whatever the thing is that you're shooting. So if the wind is blowing left, then you aim a little bit to the right. And same principle if like the target's moving. You know, if the target is moving left, you want to aim more to the left. So that way, him and your bullet intersect at the same place, and then bazinga, they get taken. So here you can see some windage adjustment, and same thing. It's the same thing for moving targets. Another thing to remember when shooting a person is this little T box right here. Basically the sunglasses plus the nose. That is the instant off button. So if you strike somebody in the instant off button, then they're instantly turned off and they can't shoot back at you. If you shoot outside of the instant off button, it's kind of like a crapshoot. You know, there's some things that can stop a person up here. There's some things that can stop a person out in here. But if you get a person right in that little T box, then you know, fucking done, lights out, immediately over. You want to make sure that the top of the front sight post is on what you're aiming at, not that the front sight post is completely covering the thing you're aiming at. Engagement techniques. There's the T box again. Ooh, burst fire. You guys don't have to worry about that. Getting up and down from the prone. Target estimation and range. I think this is it. Oh, so this is like, when you're on patrol or when you're like observing an area. You don't want to just sit and like look at things randomly. It's good to have like a pattern of observation, you sweep through the area, then you sweep back. We've already done range. Oh, one of the useful things about this particular optic is that the left and right distance on each one of these tells you like what an object would look like at that distance. So a man-sized target has about a 20-inch shoulder, 20-inch shoulder profile. So if you put your optic on somebody and you notice that the red chevron lines up with the person's shoulders, then that means, hey, that dude's about 100 yards away or 300 yards away. As you can see right here. So 19 inches at 300 yards is right here. 19 inches at 400 yards is this distance. So you can line these little lines up with your target, whatever, and whichever one is the closest to being the distance from shoulder to shoulder, that tells you about how far away the thing is. So there you go. So this is a very close target. That's a very far target. There's some more range estimation. He knows that the house is 500 meters away, so he's making mental math marks of like 100, 200, 300, 400, etc., etc. And this is a box drill. How the fuck do we get to box drills? Oh, multiple target engagement techniques. Okay, so if you got two things that you're shooting at, this is the order of the shots that you want to take. So, bam, 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 bam. So, if I've got two people coming at me, I don't want to just shoot one guy. I want to shoot them both, and I want to shoot them both as fast as possible. So the first thing you do is you aim for the center of mass because that's the biggest target. So like you can see, bullet number 1 and bullet number 2 are in the center mass of target number 1. Bullet 3 and 4 are in the center mass of target number 2. And then we got a well-aimed shot on target 2 and a well-aimed shot on target 1. So a failure to stop drill is like, okay, put 2 shots in the big spot, 2 shots in the big spot. We presume the 2 big shots kind of like knocked him off kilter or like hit the reset button or something. And then they're no longer a threat, but we still want to finish them off so that way they're not super duper dangerous. That's when you put one in the dome piece. So bang 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 bang. That's why it's called a box drill, because it makes a box shape. So if you have 2 people coming at you, 2 shots on the first guy, 2 shots on the second guy, 1 well-aimed shot, 1 well-aimed shot. So these are quick, slow, slow. When I say slow, I mean like, you just take a little bit more time. You're not like taking your sweet ass time. You're just being a little bit more deliberate with that one last well-aimed shot. And that is multiple target engagement. I think that's moving target engagement. Okay, this is the last thing that we're covering. All right, so this tells you how far you want to aim in front of the target at what distance while going what speed. So if the target's 50 yards away, you want to aim about like, 2 inches in front of them. If the target's running at 200 yards, you want to aim about 35 inches in front of him, something like that. So this is just the little graph of that sort of stuff. And this shows you a better picture of it. So when a person's walking, you don't give them any lead at 100 meters or less. When they are fast walking, you give them a little bit more lead, up to 200 yards. And when they're jogging, give them even more lead. And when they're running, you give them a ton of lead. So this is called Kentucky windage. And there you go. And I think that is it. So ladies and gentlemen, this concludes. What is this? Oh, looking at things in night. I'll just say, when you're looking at things at night, you don't want to stare directly at it. You want to stare off kilter, because the center of your eyeballs don't have as many rods or cones or whatever the thing is that lets you see at nighttime. So when you want to see something at night, don't look directly at it. Look a little bit offset. So as you can see, don't look like this. Look off center just a little bit, and then you'll be able to see it. So, and that concludes. Yep, this is all Marine Corps stuff. Fucking lasers and other such things. All right, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing then. Ladies and germs, this concludes your fantastical intro to Marine Corps marksmanship with me, Will Stevenson. This has been an excellent show. I want to thank you all for joining us. I guess it's time for me to go ahead and talk about what is the DGen Roundtable doing in the near future, and where can you find us, and yada yada yada. So, for those of you that are brand new to the DGen Roundtable, welcome, welcome. You guys can find us at youtube.com/@DGen Roundtable. We stream live. We are live at 8 p.m. Eastern every Wednesday, where we talk to guests, Friday, where we do book club or, intro to marksmanship with me, and Sunday, where we cover the cryptocurrency and macroeconomic news. My name is Will Stevenson. You guys can find all of my socials, and you can chit chat with me from will.pls.fyi. That is my little linkity link stuff where y'all can find me, everything that I'm doing, all of my socials, my YouTubes, my Twitter, my X, my Facebook, everything. Let's see. I just got distracted because I saw the chat. So shout out to Mr. Crypto Boogie. Dog RG3 ran an M4A1 and an M16A1. Yes, he did. RG3 was a Vietnam M16 user. So shout out to RG3. Good for him. I need to go pop on over to the Discourse Syndicate and see what they're doing, and maybe give them a little bit of love in the comments. It's way too late for me to be streaming anymore. So if I could love you, RG3, you guys should go check out RG3 at Discourse Syndicate. Let me see if I can find a link for you guys to drop into the chats, since I am a benevolent person. So I will go ahead. Oh goodness, I don't want that up. Don't save. Untitled. There we go. Discourse Syndicate. There we are. It's the effing hangout. Y'all should go check it out. It's not even RG3 hosting. We've got a live SJ hosting right now. Shout out to you, SJ. Good to see you. You guys should go check out the Discourse Syndicate stream going on at this link right here, youtube.com/Discourse Syndicate, or you can click on that link that is in the live chats. Go check out what they're doing. Go say hi to SJ. Tell her that Will sent you over. It's a good time. I believe that she's talking about the direct mail campaign stuff that Richard Hart's been tweeting about recently. So go see what they're up to over there. Go show some love. Go hit that like button. Do all that good stuff. If you guys want to find more of me and what I do, you can find me in all my socials at will.pls.fyi. That is my decentralized link tree sort of thing. And you guys can check out the DGen Roundtable at youtube.com/@DGen Roundtable, or over on Twitter, or you guys can catch us in the Telegram. As the little scrolling chyron at the bottom of the screen has been saying, for you to join the DGen Roundtable Telegram, all that you have to do is type in t.me/@ or t.me/DRT join now. Let me make sure that I drop that link in the comments as well. Come be a part of our family. Post some memes, talk about guns, talk about girls, talk about crypto, talk about every fucking thing you want. So join the DGen Roundtable Telegram at t.me/DRT join now. Come hang out with us every Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday, where we talk about guests. We talk to guests. We talk about books. We talk about crypto news, and just do a general palling around sort of thing. So that being said, it's time to go ahead and end the show. I want to thank you all for spending your valuable time with us here on the DGen Roundtable. As Agent J often says, we know that time is your most valuable asset, and we appreciate you spending every waking moment here with us that you guys do. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Will Stevenson, but more importantly, you have been watching the DGen Roundtable. I'm the producer tonight, so I have to go ahead and get that trigger figure ready, because it's time to remind all the folks at home to remember to DGen responsibly. Ah, fuck, I missed the trigger. Hang on. To DGen responsibly.